looking for something new on Bind. I mean, fair enough. We'll see if that is going to work against Wave, if they do end up picking it in their set this time around. So if that comes through, great. They might be able to get a little bit more practice on board. I mean, in general, they're sounding pretty confident, though, against this matchup. I think that it sounds like they are definitely feeling that they are the favorites to go into this. And to be honest, I kind of agree. I think that they have the strength, definitely the firepower to do it. But the question is, can they step up after that loss from G2?
I mean, losing to a G2 on Bind the way it did isn't the best performance from them. But like you said, it feels like they are pretty confident in this composition. So maybe we do need to see them play it a couple more times. But their challenger today is not G2. It's going to be Wave. And Ryan, they are coming into this, like John said, as a bit of an underdog.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the matchups they had, they did really well in stage one. They actually got to the closed qualifiers part of it, but they lost to Alliance. I think they lost to Ballista as well at a given point. But they did beat FNATIC in that journey to get to the closed qualifiers. One of the first losses I think they ever had under that FNATIC banner. But since then, they haven't changed up their roster at all, but they've not had the best results. But I guess if you're new to this team and want a player to watch, it has to be Muri, who is mostly going to be on the Sky. He played a lot of it and was one of the first European players to really go full time into this agent. And this was a play from BK Rog up against him where you don't usually get to be able to get away with this kind of play, especially with the fact that this is patch 3.0. This is Sky with only 2 flashes and a bit of a cooldown, yet he's still playing it just as aggressively as the old version of her. So this could catch FNATIC off guard. It's already done that before in the past. And I think now that they've lost to G2, FNATIC looking maybe a bit wobbly, deciding to change stuff up. Now's a good time for this Wave esports team to strike.
I feel like with Muri, you can take the duelist off the player, but you can't. No, you can take the player off the duelist, but you can't take the duelist out of the player because Muri is just another level, like you said. And, you know, speaking of the agents he's been playing, it does feel like it's been more map dependent. So we kind of do have to look at these two teams' map pools. Now, Ryan, it's been a little bit more simple for FNATIC, right? They kind of just ban split and sometimes they leave it open as like a mind game. We saw them do that against Team Liquid and G2 as well. But today, this is not something that we're expecting for them to leave open.
Yeah, I wouldn't have thought so because this is a map that Wave do like to play, but they ban out Ascent at the same time, which is the second map that FNATIC don't want to play overall, right? So they're pretty handy. It's like, all right, we're not very good on Ascent, at least in their eyes, because they ban it. We're not really wanting to play Split. So it's likely that those 2 maps are banned out, but we still have 4 left. And obviously it's a decision of, do we see that breeze? Do we not? What do we see in that place? Wave are very good on Haven, and Haven isn't a bad map for FNATIC. They did pretty well up against Sentinels in the grand final, well, up until the last round, unfortunately. Not to bring it up, but we learned from that. And I think FNATIC are going to take that personally. I think there's a lot of stead on both them and Team Liquid to be like, all right, we qualified for Reykjavik. We should be the 2 teams that have got our names in out of the 4 going to Berlin, sorry. So I think that this Wave team, they might lose the map bans a little bit here, but like I said before with Breeze, you need to show that flexibility on all sorts of different maps.
Well, with that in mind, let's have a look at the vetoes they are in now. See what both of these teams have decided to ban and pick as well. Like I said, weren't really expecting Split either. And Ryan, you summed up there with no Ascent. But we are going into Icebox. Then Breeze with Bind being the final map. A big shout out to this new graphic. I absolutely love it. The tension there was on the edge of my seat. Now, John, you are a fan of Breeze. Are you happy about the fact that this is coming up second? But also, Wave, who are so good on Haven, have decided not to choose it.
Absolutely. I'm a massive fan of Breeze. Well, you know, I will keep. Okay, fine. I like Breeze. It's great. But I think that the fact that the second map as well, which means you're guaranteed to see it, I'm very excited about. And the question is, how are you going to play into that, right? And of course, being Wave's pick, do they have some strategy that they figured out? Are FNATIC practiced? I mean, some say they're innovative. I mean, the line between genius and madness is a little bit fine, but they sort of seem to try and tread that in terms of their innovations. Maybe they are prepared for Breeze. Maybe that, again, you mentioned mind games or something like that about, you know, leaving Split open or not. Perhaps it's the same thing for Breeze. We'll have to wait and see. Obviously, we are going to see it, so I'm pretty excited.
I mean, Ryan, this is the first time we're going to see both teams play on Breeze. This is a complete new page for us. We don't even know what to expect, really.
Yeah, and I feel that FNATIC are going to have the more zaniest compositions. While we might see them move on from different stuff for Bind to not be on that FNATIC comp as it's been deemed by a lot of people, maybe they set the way of playing on Breeze. And really, if you can have a set way of playing on Breeze, it forces enemy teams that don't want to go up against that to ban it out instead of what they usually want to ban. So I think if Bind can nail down this, if FNATIC even can really nail down this new map, I think they can actually do a lot of work to a lot of the other different teams in this region, because we saw G2 losing it to Vitality a couple of days ago in the open qualifiers. I think it's going to be the difference between good and great teams going into the EMEA finals. So let's see what FNATIC can do on it, as well as Wave.
I mean, FNATIC have done so well so far with the depth of their map pool. But again, if you look at Wave, they've done something very similar too. But we're going to have to leave Breeze for the second map as we go into Icebox. First here, I know, Ryan, we spoke about Murray already on how good he is on that Sky. But we are going to head into Agent Select. And this is one of those maps, Ryan, where he isn't playing the Sky. We've seen him play the Reyna recently.
And it makes sense why you'd want to put that on. It's not unlike a lot of teams where you would effectively see them move off players that usually play like a Sentinel role, for example, to then go on and play a Reyna. It's a common choice, but it makes sense. Like you said, Murray is just a player that looks like a duelist, that functions like a duelist. And a lot of people I've heard have been saying about the new Sky, she's effectively a duelist. So he's like, great, that's fine. I also want to shout out Nico as well, who used to play a lot of Breach beforehand. Then Breach popularity went down, Sky went up. Now they're playing both on a lot of maps. So that's a lot of flashes. Basically, get your sunglasses prepped if you're FNATIC, because Wave hit, and they hit really hard on retakes and executes. Their utility's really good, but we know that FNATIC really set the pave when it comes to the way that they play off of utility and the way that they play off together as a team. This is going to be a really good matchup.
This will be indeed. I'm 100% with you there, Ryan. And before we head into Agent Select, now, John, on Icebox, I cannot believe we haven't mentioned this yet, but there is so much to talk about with everything that's been going on this closed qualifier. But this map, I feel like Durka is just a different breed on this map. Durka does the same thing, I feel like, to every single team, but outside of Sentinels, really, we don't really see anyone else that has an answer for him on Icebox.
If you think you're safe, Durka's just around the corner to give you a nightmare about it. Honestly, this guy is a unit on this map, and I think that it's going to be very difficult to deal with him. The mobility, the verticality that's exhibited, especially obviously as we fly through over on that A site, I think is phenomenally useful for a player that likes to do as Durka do and dome people around the corner. Obviously not Doma, but we're going to be seeing probably a lot more of that sort of aggressive style. Well, that sort of style that Durka is so known for.
I mean, outside of Bind as well, we've seen FNATIC also pull out a new comp on Haven. They've already played Icebox in the qualifiers, but they haven't changed anything up. So we're not expecting anything too spectacular in terms of the creativity with agents here. I feel like we'll probably see the same set of agents they've been running for a while now. We are going to head into Agent Select. The guys are ready, so we can see what they're pulling out today. Again, like I said, if you guys are familiar with FNATIC and seeing what they've done in Iceland, they've pretty much have been running the same comp here, Ryan, with nothing too left field.
Yeah, I don't think either teams are really going to pull out a new book of tricks for Icebox. It's a map that you really need to respect when it comes to your compositions. Magnum, he's going to be on the attack first, and I love the sort of mid-aggression we saw out of him in that Gambit game. I remember him back in the EMEA sort of playouts. So maybe we could see a bit more out of them. And yeah, this is just standard stuff for FNATIC so far. At least we can have a more look on the rest of Wave. It's going to be Nico actually moving over to that Sky. And like you mentioned, Murray is going to be on that Reyna, Carcass on the Jet. Double duelist versus this typical composition we see from FNATIC. It should be a standard set, but we'll see what Wave can do on the defensive half.
Yeah, and Durka locking in the Jet. I think I would have been very surprised if he didn't go for another agent other than the Jet. But like you said, again, Ryan Murray here on the Reyna, definitely one to look out for. But that is enough from us because it is time to head into map 1 and hand over to our lovely casters who have been following FNATIC Stage 3 games so far. Over to you, Mitch and Tom.
Thank you very much, Sue. Thank you indeed. We are ready to roll with this series. And Tom, I am very excited to continue following FNATIC because we've seen their run throughout the qualifiers being pretty good. Although that G2 game, well, I mean, I don't even want to harp on them about it because G2 looked better than ever. So I'm ready to pull out the excuses book for FNATIC and say right here, it's going to be clean against Wave.
Oh, all right. We haven't even got into the match yet, and we've already got Mitch telling people that this is going to be just clean for FNATIC. You know, I might be a little bit biased because I do like there's some of the players on the Wave side, but I do get what you mean. Like, this is still one of our champions. They lost to the super team. Like, this is what G2 keep doing. They keep building the best roster available to them. They pick players from different teams all over the place, and you know what, Mitch? But we're getting right into our pistol round, so I'm gonna be quiet.
Now let's just be quiet for this one. No, I'm kidding. Magnum already taking a little bit of contact right off the bat. We're going to see the turret pop down. So they've got a little bit of retreat power, right? He can fall back without worrying about someone pushing up on him. Realizing that engagement, probably not one he wants to take off the bat. Coming into 1:15 on the clock, Wave have had their aggression up A. They've got good control right now. But this setup still requires 2 players because you need someone to be watching Belt this whole time for the Reyna down below, which means they can't stack up B, even though they suspect the hit to be coming in there.
Yeah, it's looking like Durka's about to take that early aggression. Nico going to try and get something done here. The flash round actually gets nothing. Going to blind a couple of players, but Durka gets the kill nonetheless. And already Magnum finding another one will leave us into an awkward position now for Wave. And they're getting slaughtered. It's only Murray left, and sure, he's on that Reyna. Sure, he can maybe heal himself up if he gets a kill. But Mitch, I can't say I really believe in this one.
Yeah, you know what, Tom? I'm gonna jump in that boat with you. Muri might be able to catch one as they come out through a middle. Oh, but what a nice little flick. That was beautiful. But now they know where he is. And at this stage, his chances decrease significantly. We need quick headshots. We need big whiffs coming out of the side of FNATIC, and it ain't happening. So 1-0 we go. The pistol goes to FNATIC. Honestly, Tom, I want to get your take on this. Map 2 being Breeze. Do you think that this is FNATIC being caught off guard, or you think they've put in heavy prep?
I don't think this map would be in the pool if FNATIC didn't play it. Like, it's one of those things where it's like a sort of evil we know, I guess, or like the evil the other way. Like, I just don't think that there's going to be any sort of opportunity otherwise. So realistically, I would expect that they have put some practice in.
Yeah, you would guess so. That was my same thought as well. At the same time, I really want to see if like, for Wave pulling it out, they must have something up their sleeve, right? They must have put in the preparation, and that's a map I'm super excited. It'll be our first cast of Breeze. Right here, this is also one more thing, Tom, because obviously we've been doing the open qualifiers. We've just been on the server, or our observer has been. Now we have that beautiful UI back. We can see the weapons, the abilities left.
So much.
Really, honestly, it's like a Christmas present getting to use this again. And because of that, we can see that there's just classics into this round. There's basically nothing to work with for Wave, and we don't expect them to get much done. But despite that, Carcass, I feel like he's the kind of guy that can come out with a couple kills. You know what I mean? A few right clicks up close, and there is a player right down below.
Yeah, he's the one who might be doing something a little bit cheeky here. Unfortunately, it's gone a little bit wrong for the remaining players as they try and get back into the site. He's actually a really almost interesting character when it comes to this roster, because when we saw him previously, let's go all the way back to right in the beginning of Challenges where we first saw them, where we even saw them upset FNATIC. He was a Jet one trick. I think that's the only way to really put him down as a player within the scene. He played Jet every single game. That was all we saw. Whenever we saw the agent select come up, we were like, don't worry, guys, Carcass is picking Jet. Now, he's almost like a Swiss Army knife. Like, we see him playing controller on some maps and just completely switching up the way that he plays and almost just filling in roles. So there's been a lot of development when it comes to this team. And I'll be interested to see if that's actually going to work out well for them.
I've realized as well that as I said, this is going to be an easy series for FNATIC. I really hope it is now, because otherwise I feel like my curse is genuinely going to be real.
Yeah.
And then I'm getting in trouble. Some angry tweets, some angry DMs. But
for anybody who doesn't know, yesterday Mitch predicted 4 teams, obviously out of 8. And every single one of them was wrong, without fail. Like, that included FNATIC. It was impressive. Like, it was impressively wrong. My prediction was that you'd cursed people, and that prediction was correct. So, if anything, I'm 1 for 0 right now.
Yeah, you and Paper Thin jumped right on it. You said, you know what? I'm going for whatever teams Mitch isn't. And you were right. So, I'm keeping my mouth shut today. Although I've already kind of spoken at the start. But anyways, we'll move past that. This is a buy round here, and we're obviously looking at FNATIC as a bonus, but they're still getting some damage done and making their way towards the site. With 30 seconds on the clock, it's time to plant. There's 2 players down this alley ready to spam through that green box. No safe haven for FNATIC to actually get a plant in, and it looks like they might just have to go for a decently open one. In fact, trying to bait out utility and sprays at the very beginning, and leaving Durka to go up above for a kill. That's beautiful stuff with the spike. Still not down. The problem hasn't been solved, and now Durka's all alone. No, the right click into a dismissed Reyna. He loses his knives and loses his lives. That is going to be 2-1. Wave answering up here, but this was a bonus round for FNATIC, Tom, and all things considered, they did pretty well.
Yeah, of course. Like, that is, like... the thing is, you call that a bonus, right? Because it is. Technically, in terms of the finances, that is a bonus. When Durka has Bladestorm, I don't count that as a bonus anymore. Like, it's not fair. The man is too good individually. Also, we then have to talk about how many kills he got in the first couple of rounds to be able to afford that now, because we know that it's up to 7 orbs, which is a little bit more difficult to get. So the fact that he even has that in round number 3, a little bit absurd. But you know what? That is Durka on Icebox. He is almost like that loose cannon that is just sent in to try and start things off for FNATIC.
Here's the drone to start things off for FNATIC this time, but it hasn't spotted Muri, letting him get one and dismiss away. A teammate comes in, and it's Zeke, but he's on... Oh, hello! Big gap! They know the dome is up close, but the communication wasn't there. Wave blindsided, and the advantage they had just completely disappears. FNATIC now on the side, and this time, the problems of the previous round won't come back to haunt them, as they can just get that plant down nice and easily. And Wave have to answer back. The good thing is, though, they've got Sky to do it, and the Flash is about to come back online. In fact, the Seeker's used to buy that space, but Mystic, he gets ahead of the problem and takes them both down. 3-1. FNATIC, they're here to play.
It almost seemed like even though they used the Seekers, they still kind of questioned where Mystic was going to be. It's like the ultimate itself tells you where they are. Now, I know from speaking a little bit to the side of Wave that I almost feel like the reason they're playing Sky in almost every single scenario is because they've realized that there is now an ability to almost abuse that agent in a lot of cases. Like that ultimate... I'm going to go ahead and say it. I don't think it should be 6 orbs. Like, I feel like that's ridiculous. Like, especially later on, we'll probably see Muri play it. How often do you think he's going to be able to get 6 kills? I think quite regularly. So it almost seems a little bit silly that they're able to get that so quick. And I wouldn't be surprised to see more duelists actually switching up so they can just have free information each round.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. In this round here, information is going to be the least of the problems, though, because they've got pistols. And we've seen what happened last time. FNATIC got away with a flawless round, bolstered their economy massively. But it's not going to be flawless. Oh, no! I was certain he was dead, caught as he puts his wall up, and still, the classic just not strong enough. The right clicks of old, maybe just coming back for a second, a glimpse into the past, with Nico dropping 2 and making sure that this is still a costly round for FNATIC, despite some good foundations in the early stages. They will have a bit of reinvestment.
He has a couple more clips there, can spam off a few more right clicks. Maybe he actually has a chance to win that round. I don't think it's going to be happening. Now, I do want to premise this by saying that I don't think this is a particularly good map for Wave, just in general. Like, we've seen them try this specific comp where they bring in the Reyna once, And that was against one of the earlier teams they played within the qualifier. So if you're thinking that FNATIC are heavy favorites in general, on this map, if FNATIC don't win it, I think that that's a massive turnaround for Wave. Like, that would be a huge upset victory. Next map, though, is where things should get a little bit more interesting. Carcass, though, as said, this is where he's a little bit more aggressive, more of a duelist, more of a fighter for this squad. And he's got his trusty operator in play and already got things off to a decent start.
Durka suspected that he was around here. He was trying to jump and shoulder peek
it's a bait.
the angle for so long. That res coming in baits him into swinging wide, and the kill right afterwards. Now even a lockdown to be used, potentially, just to clear out the rest of the site, but it looks like they've decided against it. They have 55 seconds on the clock and a man advantage. Plenty to work with here, and it looks like they're going to allow Durka to have a little bit of... Oh, no, they're actually going straight in for the plant and spamming back onto Zeke. That's a nice little two-man advantage and a spike plant with a Viper's Pit to protect.
Yeah, I think they've just planned around what ultimate they were actually going to use in this round. They had so many available to them on that side that just completely ends the round. And I think realistically, Wave are already starting to look to try and back Cow.
That was from up on top.
Was that just...
I was on top.
I thought he just shot him straight through the pit. I was thinking that that would have just been unreasonable if he'd done that.
Most random angle.
all right, that's fine. It does seem like for Cider, though, this might be a little bit of a tougher task. They're going to hunt him down because financially, FNATIC in a pretty damn good spot. The only round lost, their bonus, and even that, they dropped Wave down to just 2 players. But they're actually not going to find him. So you know what? He gets away with a gun. That's something at least.
Yeah, I mean, it's a small consolation for Cider. That spam would have been incredible had it have been through the Viper's Pit. I had to glance at the minimap for a second and just be like, wait, he is on top, right? But at 5-1, you're looking at a pretty significant lead for FNATIC. If they manage to claim this round, Wave will be in the dumps. They need it right here. And the good thing to look at is Carcass. He has that Blade Storm online, and we've already seen the insane impact versus a full buy that Durka was able to yield with the Blade Storm. Durka has it too, so we might have a Blade battle coming in.
Yeah. Oh my God. We call that the headshot angle because normally it benefits the player on the defender's side, but when you're up against Durka, it only gives him the head to aim at, and this man doesn't miss. An easy opener to start. He's already starting to sneak through, and actually the wall might end up hurting the opposition. It's going to be his teammates to pick up the final kills, and sure, he's lost all his knives, but Wave have already lost the round. It makes no difference.
Before the spike even touches the floor, the round is over. Wave saving these weapons right off the bat. As we mentioned, a loss in this round puts their economy in the dumps, and at 6-1 down, you're not going to throw 2 rifles at a 2v5. What I will say, though, is FNATIC's economy is pretty good. They could go and hunt these guys down if they want to, and I think at this point, Spidey senses start to tingle. You start to realize these guys, they're not really coming for this, are they? And you know that they have rifles, so the worst thing, you give them a Vandal. Well, they already have one. Sometimes it is better to just carry the weapons through, but curious to see if they go. If
you're FNATIC at this point, like, sure, taking the weapons is always going to be valuable, but at the same time, Wave haven't really put up much resistance. Like, there's been a kill or two.
Yeah.
That's basically been it. This was a flawless round. Like, yeah, sure, you could run in, but maybe you give them some ultimate orbs, and I would almost say that it almost sounds a bit harsh, but I think the ultimates might actually be the bigger threat at this stage because just them having rifles, they're just running over them. They're just walking through rounds. You look at a Durka with an average combat score of almost 400.
Oh my God. It just seems obscene when you say that. 400 combat score. If you can finish on that, I'd be setting records or coming close to it. But yeah, 6-1. This is, again, somewhere that Wave need to show up. Because they've saved the rifles, they've even been able to get themselves up that operator thanks to the Blade Storm in the previous round. There's an opportunity, and there's the opening kill. In fact, that's the spike drop, but
no.
Nico gets spammed right back through the tube. And with him down, the man advantage sits to FNATIC. They've got a lockdown and a Hunter's Fury to play with, and they're running right towards that B site, where poor old Zeke is just waiting away with a Bulldog. The weakest weapon in play might have to be the strongest on this hold.
Zik would have to pull off some sort of miracle. He does have a rotation coming in from Carcass, but I just think it's going to be too late. You've got the nano swarms trying to slow him down, information also being garnered, so Carcass having to use the small amount of smokes he has to actually just keep himself alive, and Durka is just the gatekeeper at this point. Carcass has found himself at least something to maybe give them an avenue back into this round, and you can see Cider just trying to hold on the flank, but there are now 2 players just holding to make sure that he can't get anything done.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine that this one works out. Cider on the way up. If he gets the first, the trade should be there. And in fact, it's very rare you'd even check the angle that Magnum is on. He goes out staring at it. And it comes down to a 1 versus 2. If time wasn't such an issue, this would probably be winnable for Carcass. But he also doesn't want to be losing that operator and running through the middle. It'll be a guaranteed win for FNATIC. Although they have lost a lot of weapons, it does little to console the 7-1 deficit that Wave currently face.
Yeah, I think in this case they realize, okay, well, if we get rid of the operator, then he can't buy one in the next round, so it's worth just throwing a few weapons into the wind. But yeah, thus far it just seems like FNATIC have a superb read on everything that's going on. Like, they're countering a lot of the initial aggressive plays that Wave are trying to make. Like, and you can understand now why Wave are trying to make them 6-1 down. Okay, let's take some initiative. Let's get aggressive with our duelist and, I guess, semi-duelist in the form of Sky. Pop flash through, get an opener, and then you just get spammed down because there were 3 players from FNATIC waiting on the other side. So thus far, at least, all we're really looking at is the fact that FNATIC, either they go aggressively into one of the sites and you've just got someone like Durka who's just opening things up like it's no man's business, or you have these rounds where Wave try and get aggressive and FNATIC just seem to be ready for them every single time.
I think it is definitely the right time to call that pause into question for Wave. They have the operator to play with. They have 4 ultimates as well. And this is what really makes it a workable round. If you even look at Cider right now, he doesn't have a lot of money. But if he pops down his ultimate of Viper's Pit somewhere and has a Spectre or I would say anything but a Sheriff, he's probably in a pretty good spot to get a kill or to stop them from pushing there and force the team of FNATIC towards the rest of the weapons. But as I look at the buy and how it evolves, it doesn't look like they're going to throw themselves at this round entirely. Despite having an operator and investing into that Vandal, the rest of the weapons are a little bit weaker. A Marshal and 2 Sheriffs. Last second Marshal buy by Nico. You can see he's holding long range on A. But FNATIC, they've decided to make a pretty ambitious push in this one. 3 players straight through the tube. Up against a pistol buy, this could be incredibly dangerous. But in fact, this is the part of the map that Wave have left open.
Oh, they're going to do that filthy, like, elevated plant that just seems to be impossible to break back against. Like, they've done this a few times. Normally it involves Viper's Pit. They do. Somehow, though, this is actually going better than a lot of the other rounds. We've seen Zik now manage to find another pick. Oh, that was a moment for Carcass to actually turn the round. That would have made it almost impossible. And actually, we are going to see some ultimates thrown in. We've got the lockdown being put into place. Carcass now picked off, puts it back into a 3v3 situation. And we've seen the Seekers go through as well.
But the problem is, they've still not planted. So that lockdown, it pushes them off the B side. But they're like, all right, we'll plant on A then. No problem, bro. And they still, like, they're going to get this plant down. That means, I think it's Mystic planting. He's just 1 away from his Viper's Pit. If he gets the kill or dies, he's set up for the next round. Wave are not looking to be in a good position here, even coming into the next rounds. And Zeke with 86 HP and no shield. So there's the first from the top rope. That's a good start, leaving Magnum on 15 HP. But unfortunately, it's not going to be his. And we go 8-1. A dominant start on this map for FNATIC. And as we said, they have the advantage, it seems, coming into the latter stages of the half as well.
Just to clarify, he was still on the rope when he did that, right?
I believe so, yes. It looked like it.
So there basically is no such thing as rope inaccuracy. That's what I've learned. Because he didn't even, like, spray or anything. He just tapped 1 bullet while hanging onto a rope by the back of his hat, by the looks of it. I don't understand how that works. If I did that, the bullet's going off into the stratosphere.
Yeah, oh yeah. Very much the same for me. And that's the thing, Tom. We always watch these pro games together. We're like, you know what, let's go play some ranked. I bet I can do that kind of stuff. You try to replicate the plays, and you end up just kneecapping everybody. It's a shame. It really is. But I guess they probably put a few more hours in than we do. Carcass, but if he bullets in, Doma's down straight away. Durka manages to return it to Cider, and this Killjoy ult is going to push them completely off the A site, garnering full control to FNATIC. And as aforementioned, they've got that Viper's Pit now to even the odds or push them a bit in their favor.
Spike planted.
It's going to be popped almost instantly. Now, there is an Empress on the other side, but I don't think it's going to have the same sort of impact. Mystic is already going to be picking off one. He's got Durka lurking around the back, but actually he goes pushing, and they lose Mystic as well. The worry here, though, is there's still a Hunter's Fury, if they even need to use it. And Magnum, up close, they don't even expect Boaster to just be hiding in the corner. Why would you? He has a Hunter's Fury online. You're going to think he's as far away as humanly possible, hiding in the back, ratting it out, and instead, he was on site.
Has he used his Hunter's Fury this half? I don't recall it.
I'll be honest with you, Mitch. I don't think FNATIC have needed their ultimates that much. Like, let's put it this way. The round before, where there was the pistols, the rifles, whatever, we saw multiple ultimates popped by Wave in a 3v3. FNATIC used none and still won the round.
That's, disappointing, shall we say. It is the map pick of FNATIC if we want to sow some,
So dead.
some seeds of hope, but I don't know about that. I still feel like when we come over to the next map of Breeze, that's somewhere that you can't even escape him, man. Sneb's a headshot as well through the cloud burst. Disgusting. Yeah, like, coming onto the next map, I don't see... I'd love to believe in the narrative that Wave are in a position where they're just going to really have some insane strats and catch FNATIC off guard, and FNATIC don't know how to play Breeze, but I can't believe that for a second.
Yeah, as said, going into this one, what I will say is I think along with maybe Ascent, I think, which is what they banned. Oh my god, is he actually just going to ace this round? Might as well. Come on, Durka. Let's close it out. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes hunting for it. Murray might just... Like, he doesn't want to save onto this because obviously he'll get more from the bonus in the next round. So it's going to be the idea to get a kill. Mystic in a 5 versus 1 is still doing lineups. He's like, guys, don't worry. Just in case he tries to defuse when there's 5 of us on the spike, I've got a lineup ready just to make sure. I just hope you know that, guys. I'm prepared. Ooh. Murray, though... Oh, not...
That was a headshot.
Not the 1.5.
Yeah.
Oh.
There's no worse feeling, man. There really is no worse feeling. And honestly, in terms of where the meta sits right now, I like where the Sheriff is. At the same time, every time I hit a 145, I'm like, God, they need to buff this. Should be one-shot headshot from any range.
Do you know what that's like? It's like if you, say, order some food from a specific fast food place and they deliver everyone else's food and you don't get yours.
Yeah.
Right?
They call that the hypoc, right? They just give you an apple pie and leave every other part of your meal out of it. Oh yeah, that's the hypoc. At 2 a.m. when you're absolutely starving after a 10-hour broadcast.
So much.
Just the best thing was the guy literally waved the apple pie at him and said something in German. We didn't know what he said, and we've had many theories in the latter stages, but hey, there's an opening for Wave. Carcass, again on that operator, able to get it done. Now, this is the last round of the half, and if you take a look at the ultimates in play, there is a res that's immediately popped up. Over on the Wave side, they've already used Viper's Pit, they have Empress, they have Bladestorm, there's a bunch to work with here, but the numbers now evened up. They've actually managed to deal a lot of damage to Durka, almost taking him down on that initial fight. With the decay, he was 50 HP getting out of there.
Yeah, this time, of course, it's not like one of those rounds where he just has the Bladestorm, so he still has a rifle to boot. Zik, this is aggressive. And I don't know, maybe gets a little bit frightened by the amount of players spotted on the other side, and eventually he's going to get cleared. The Hunter's Fury definitely helping there. It's been used at least. Nick trying to do his best, and actually he's got 2.
30
a
seconds
good opportunity here. Cider in the right place, but not quite the right timing. And now only 2 remain. It's going to be Carcass, who's been spotted as well, as if it isn't already difficult enough. And Nico.
Spike planted.
Oh, he's a little bit low, and unfortunately, unlike Sage, can't heal himself.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a problem on 36 HP. As they come into the site, Carcass is going to be the one to do the heavy lifting. At least you'd hope so. That's where the Blade Storm comes out. Not going to use that operator as a shotgun when you basically have a shotgun. Nice shot onto Magnum, but ultimately it will amount to nothing. 11-1 on the board, and that dominant game for FNATIC hasn't been cursed, thankfully. It looks like they are very much in the driver's seat, with Durka almost hitting 20 kills in the first half alone. That is ridiculous.
407
across 12 rounds.
It's gone up since we mentioned it last time. Like that's unreasonable. Like, we mentioned it because it was such a high stat. We're like, yeah, if it's round 7, and then you get to round 13 and it's higher. Yeah, this is the thing. Not only are Wave having to face FNATIC, they're having to face lower bracket Angry FNATIC, which is the scariest FNATIC of all. So yeah, I will say I am a lot more hopeful for Breeze. I don't know if they'll be able to win it, but this is one of the weaker maps for Wave. I think that they've been recently trying to change comps because things just weren't necessarily working, even against like weaker opposition. Well, most opposition is weaker than FNATIC, but you get the point, against more local opposition. So I think that they knew somewhere in this series there was probably going to be a gimme map. Maybe they thought there was an opportunity here rather than on Ascent. I'm hoping Breeze is going to be a bit closer. And also, I'm just excited because I've never casted a Breeze before.
I don't think,
Oops.
even looking back at Breeze and how it's been played out, I'm very excited to see FNATIC's take on it. Like, I want to see what they do in this series. At the same time, with such a dominant first map, I'm like, are they really going to end up in a spot where they show everything right now? I think that they'll probably be much, much looser on Breeze, and what we're going to see from them in the next map is not...
Triple duelist?
Oh, well, let's not be ridiculous now, Tom, please.
Who would do that other than, well, FNATIC?
I'm not saying it's impossible, I'm just saying I don't want it. Oh, Mystic through his own wall, and he takes down Zeke. This is like a final nail in the coffin. If Wave lose this pistol, it is without a doubt over. And indeed, it's looking like it might be Carcass. The final remaining member has a 1v4 in his hands, and these players are just destroying him through that cloudburst before he even sees a victim. A player. He's 5 HP, and that will be 12-1, Tom. It is a shockingly dominant map. I know I said I expect this series to be relatively easy for FNATIC, but this it's another level, really.
This is a little bit silly, I think is the way I would put it. It's also one where you almost get to the stage where you're like, okay, they're just running around. Also, he's hit 420 ACS, just thought I'd point that out. Enjoy that, chat. And how much you guys love the funny numbers. Haha. But yeah, I'm not expecting much. Of course, it's going to be a 4-spy.
That's cool.
And in terms of 4-spies, they're fairly even just because, well, they got the plant. So there's at least a little bit of extra money. By the looks of it, we might have a bit of a cheeky execution coming in.
I did like the nanoswarm throw over to B just to save from spawn, so he's not late to the A site. And it's a good job because there's lots of players coming into A looking to take the site. Boaster goes straight through that poison orb, ends up down on 2 HP. Some of that will regen up though. And as we end up in a advantage again for FNATIC, Wave, they need to find something. They need a hero in this round to keep them alive and give them a shot to at least get more than the 1 on the board, and it might just be Muri. There's the first kill for the Reyna. He's been kind of quiet, but in some rounds, those 2Ks, those 3Ks, they come in. Use the dismiss instead of the heal, so now he's very low, and up on the rope, Zeke is taking a lot of damage. Mystic able to close one out, but the spike has made it to the side. It looks like it might even be planted until Zeke is left alone and taken down. 13-1, Tom. That is one hell of a way for FNATIC to start their lower bracket run, looking dominant on map number 1.
Wow, we don't get poster cam? What, is he like... It is so expensive now just to get him on camera because of how many clicks he gets. He's charging by the hour. They've decided he's probably not going to be celebrating this one as much as the others. Yeah, that was just utterly dominant. Like, FNATIC made that look incredibly easy. Durka back on the Durka show, making everybody else look like they're human and he's just some sort of god that has come down to play Valorant. It wasn't, I'll be honest, it wasn't enjoyable to watch. Like, maybe there's some FNATIC fans who've just had a great time, but I was hoping for much more of a competitive map. What still puts at least a little bit of hope is that we are going into Breeze, and we have never seen FNATIC play it. So realistically, well, I guess you could also say that Wave haven't seen them play it, so they can't have come up with any counter strats. But let's hope in a wonderful world that gives an advantage over to Wave.
Well, let's hope so. At least more of an advantage than one round. Hopefully they can get at least 2 coming into the next, because that was a bit of a snooze fest. We want to see some competition, and we know Wave are capable of it. I want to see everything that they have to offer. But before we see Breeze, we're going to throw things over to the analyst desk after a quick break. And we'll see you back here real soon.
Welcome back, everyone, to the closed qualifiers of VCT challenges, where FNATIC have just dismantled Wave on Icebox. I'm your host, Yingsu, and I'm joined once again on the desk by John and Ryan. Hi, guys. Welcome back as well. Now, I feel like, Ryan, FNATIC might have taken that G2 loss a little bit personally. They're definitely looking to prove themselves today.
They are absolutely fired up, as you can tell. I find it funny, the first ever analyst desk I did on this broadcast, we saw Liquid beating Oxygen 13-0. The second time, get a 13-1. So every time I seem to be on, the first game is an absolute slapping down of one of the teams. And so, yeah, like, I think that FNATIC instantly went to the drawing board after that loss against G2, especially with the bind map. I think here for Wave, it was just like not the map for them overall. And this FNATIC team, they should be in the close qualifiers. Losing this series, I think, is a real devastation for them. So to see them win so dominantly on that first map isn't as much of a surprise. Maybe the 13-9 scoreline is, but overall, FNATIC should have been taking Icebox.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. Icebox is something that, I mean, we saw just how dominant they were across that game. But coming off the performance with G2, I think you're right. They are not here to play, right? Well, they are here to play. They're not here to mess around whilst they're playing in this matchup. They do not want to take this one lightly. I said it sounded like they were confident from the interview that they gave at the start. I feel like they've just made my words come true, which I'm very appreciative of for them to be able to do that. But absolutely a phenomenal performance coming through from all of FNATIC there, just to really anchor down on Icebox and give themselves a great staging.
I mean, John, we also got to talk about Durka. You know, we mentioned that he's kind of good on Icebox, and
yeah,
think he was kind of good today as well.
Yeah, 5 out of 5 for Durka. Super Poggers gamer, absolutely unbeatable. This guy is mad. He's just flying around. Nobody can stop him. I mean, you know, air traffic control tried. He said, "No, thank you. I've got 5 knives." He was incredible in that last game. Unstoppable, unbeatable. Any of those adjectives would be apt to describe this guy. I don't know what you can do against someone who's playing like that.
Yeah, but that's kind of expected, I suppose, overall. I think you can't really point at anybody FNATIC not performing when you win that dominantly, but I think Durka being able to get the montage reel together, even just in one map so far, I think goes to show why FNATIC wanted him in the first place, why they were willing to change up the beloved Summon FC roster to bring in both him and Magnum, who I also think played really well, did his job for the most part on Icebox, shut down anything that Wave were trying to do. And going on to Breeze, I don't know. I imagine he'd probably play more of the Jet considering how open it is, especially if he's looking to use the op a bit more too.
That's the thing, right? I mean, Durka was kind of known as a player that could use the operator, but on that map, Ryan, he doesn't really even need to use the operator. We saw him pick it up a couple times, but such a strong rifler. I mean, just on the back of that, what can Wave realistically do, Ryan? How do they recover from this?
I think the biggest issue overall is you look at the kind of comp, and we sort of said this a bit before, Wave's aggressive utility on retakes and executes is really, really strong. It's certainly up there with some of the tier 1 teams in Europe, but we just didn't see any of that at all. A lot of the time it was just Wave players sat on a site waiting for information, and then Durka just Ferrari peeks around the corner and you were just instantly dead. There's nothing that you could do at that point. So I was surprised to see Wave not take a step back, especially when they have stuff like a Killjoy ultimate or using a Viper's Pit more aggressively, planting it down side or putting it in B main and going, "You can't come here." Everything for Wave seems so reactionary, and by the time they reacted to what FNATIC's done, 3 players have already died. It was a nightmare performance for them, and they really have to do better on Breeze, which, considering how big and open it is, you're not going to have very quick rotates. It's going to take a while, so if you're pushing for information, you need to do it safely, and you better have a plan in case you spot some FNATIC players.
Yeah, it's going to be very tricky for them to come back from that as well. I think you cannot ignore the mental factor here as well. Knowing that they just lost 13-1, I mean, maybe there's a little element of it in the last rounds. Perhaps they're sort of just strategizing for Breeze out the back of it, trying to come up with a new sort of set of ideas, because obviously their composition did not work here, right? That double duelist just fell flat, and for whatever reason, they're going to need to figure out something better moving into Breeze. But you know, maybe that is what they've done. Maybe they've strategized specifically for Breeze and specifically against FNATIC on Breeze. But then again, FNATIC seem to have been re-strategizing as well. It's all chaos is all I can really sort of come out with at the end of things. So I'm really excited for Breeze, but I still do think it's firmly FNATIC-sided here.
Well, let's talk about this map. You know, this is where it gets a little bit difficult, especially for us, because we are going to have to theorize a little bit here. Ryan, you have already kind of touched on how strong a Jet player would be on this map. It does feel like it could potentially be Durka's playground, but like we said in the pre-show, we have never seen either of these teams play on Breeze. This is completely new for both of them.
I don't even want to guess what FNATIC are trying to play because they'll probably do something really odd. I think you have to talk about the agents that you would 100% expect to see. Viper, because Viper's really good on at least shutting down one of the maps. Sentinel, maybe a Cypher. The map is just way too big for Killjoys, even for the lockdown. It's not big enough for either the A or B site. I want to see more Sky. I want to see Murray, at least in this series, play that agent, and considering how much we've talked him up, have a good and better performance. Carcass, most likely going to still be on the jet, needs to do better with the opping. FNATIC did a really good job of shutting him down, baiting him out onto aggressive angles, but considering the economy wasn't really there for Wave at all in Icebox, if they find themselves with big guns, they need to be a bit more careful and not put themselves in positions where not only you die, but you give Durka an operator. That just makes it even more difficult to shut down. So it's going to be interesting. FNATIC's composition is certainly one to keep an eye on because they pioneer new maps as they come in with their strategies and comps.
I think that their composition is, as you say, very, very open to the possibilities. I spoke a little bit about how I think that this map is very prone to a retake style and how you're going to have to try and play for that. So as such, I think we should see Breach a little bit more potentially for the ability to sort of lead things in. I mean, I've always been a fan of Breach. I think you're right with Cypher. I think it's a little bit less impactful here. I mean, maybe you could throw it on in, but I'm expecting as well that Viper, as you mentioned, Ryan, and potentially I feel like a spanner in the works here. Omen, I think, could be pretty interesting because you're so mobile, obviously, with the ult there to be able to just get wherever you want to be and get there quickly. Potentially a little bit more useful. So, those are my three that I'm going to be looking out for. Whether or not FNATIC are going to listen to me this time remains to be seen. I mean, honestly, they could do anything.
Well, the breach is interesting there, John, because in the past, I think if we were to see a breach on one of FNATIC's maps, it would be Boaster. I think Boaster has kind of carried the breach duty as long as his roster have sort of been together. But recently, we've seen Magnum play breach. So it's not just about the agents they're going to pick here, because, John, we don't really know who's going to be on what at this point.
No, and I think that is, again, another strength of FNATIC, and it's going to make Waves time a lot more difficult, right? It's going to make their potential pre-strategizing a lot harder. But I think that you just put either of them on it, and I think that it's going to go quite well. Honestly, I don't think you could call who's going to be on this breach. I just don't think it's possible when we haven't really seen any breeze from these two teams. So I think that is just a wait and see. But yeah, I'm expecting that it might come into the fold, especially given its sort of popularity, obviously, after the changes coming through. I think it's an incredibly valuable pick.
Yeah, one thing that I wanted to note as well when it comes to agent selection, Yoru isn't bad on this map at all. He could, if there's a team to play it and to bring some zany strategy, it'd be FNATIC, but it's also a bit of an ace up the sleeve potentially for Wave. If they lose this, they're not going to be part of the main event. They'll have to play Challengers 2 alongside Heretics and NIP and all those other teams that didn't make it. So if there's a time to pull in a nice, cute strategy to maybe pull back the series, I think against FNATIC is a good time to do it.
I mean, yeah, like you said, Ryan, this isn't over for Wave. They had one bad map. It happens to a lot of teams, and this will be a great place for them to come back into this. And do you feel like the way to come back into this is through those zany agents, or do you feel like, get Murray back on the Sky and sort of let him do what he knows?
It's a good question, really. I think the problem is, bear in mind that Wave did play up against FPX, and it was a pretty close series. Like, FPX maybe looking a little bit weaker after losing against Guild, but that's a good result. And Wave dominated their game against BK Rogue to actually get to this point. But that team that I watched and those games that I saw was not on show today. It was this weird, maybe nervous lineup that wasn't sure how to go up against FNATIC, who did change up quite a lot of their own strategies on Icebox. A couple of different Sage walls here or there, and obviously doing that kind of thing. So yeah, Wave, just play it simple and safe, but that's difficult on the brand new map Breeze.
I mean, yeah, it's going to be difficult any time of day. But yeah, I'm excited to see what they pull out on this one. FNATIC as well. Versus Wave, I feel like FNATIC have it in my mind, so that's my prediction if you were going to ask me.
Don't Mitch curse this, we got too many curses already. Maybe John curses a thing as well. As we said, both of these teams will be making their Breeze debut, and so will our caster Tom Biz. They will be back with Agent Select right after this break.
Hello and welcome back. This is a bit of a treat, I have to say. After what was a very dominant first map, we're going on to Breeze. This is going to be the first cast for myself and Tom on Breeze. And also the first I get to see a FNATIC here, Tom. I'm very, very excited for this one.
Yeah, I'm sort of curious what to actually expect from a lot of the teams. I feel like FNATIC have always been, I guess, the innovators when it comes to the compositions that should be run on different maps. And, oh, wow, that came in very, very quickly indeed. I'm not overly surprised to see both Cypher and Sova. I think information on this map is going to be huge. I know Mitch has been looking forward to this map for a very, very long time because he loves his Viper, and it makes the most sense in these sort of scenarios just because of how large the map actually is.
Yeah, and I think when you look at the Cypher play, this is something we theorized straight away would make sense now, but also coming into KO when he eventually comes into play, it's going to be much, much more difficult for Viper players to, or sorry, for Killjoy players to actually find any value when you're playing as up against KO, because you have to be close to your utility, and that means he's got a pretty good idea where he needs to throw that knife or pop the ultimate, and you're completely useless, where Cypher can still have that that advantage. I actually think it's going to innovate even further, making Cypher's play on other sides of the map and all this sort of stuff, but we'll get to that when KO is in the pool. For now, Breeze is in the pool, and we're getting to watch it right here and right now. The game is going live. The pistol, 10 seconds until they kick it off. And Tom, what are we expecting to see here? Are you expecting Wave to completely surprise FNATIC and bounce back, or is this a 2-0?
I would assume it's probably a 2-0, but I'm hoping for the prior, if that's allowed as an option. Murray, though, interestingly, actually switching up over to a Sova. Like, that's not something I necessarily expected, considering the agents that we normally see in play is the big boy Sky in most of these cases. But you know what? It seems like Nico might be stealing that role from him, at least on a couple of maps.
I'm a big fan of the Sky and Sova play, and I think when it comes to Sova on this map, the information, as you said earlier, is so important. But right now, they don't have a Sova because Muri is down. That A push through cave, not going to work out in the slightest. They'd spotted players outside of B, and off the back of that, FNATIC immediately rotated. Now blitzing out to the A site with the Viper wall, they're going to get a plant, and this is Wave facing into the first retake of Breeze.
Spike planted.
They've at least played it a few different times. Zeke already is going to be able to find himself one. You've got Doma lurking around the side of the site, hoping for those closer battles. And while on the other side, there's still a fair few investments into these ghosts, giving them maybe a slight advantage here. Cider already turning the corner as Zik does manage to find one. And actually, they're going to try and use some of that Viper utility, but the sneak through comes in from Boaster. He manages to bypass the first player, stab him in the back, and FNATIC have themselves their first round.
Boaster even receiving a shot to the head for his troubles, but still getting away with murder. 1-0 we go. FNATIC are looking good at the moment, but it is only a pistol. I'm very, very curious as to how round twos are going to go down when it comes to Breeze. At this point, on the defensive side especially, you could see viability for Marshall strategies to come out. Up against this composition in particular, they don't have a lot to block lines of sight. We've seen before from FNATIC, for example, the triple smoke, triple controller setup. When that happens, when you've got a Brim, an Astra, and of course a Viper, that is going to put you in a tough spot to actually marshal it out. But Wave here decided to go for the full eco instead. Now, I commend it. I think up against FNATIC at the moment, they're not going to be the kind of team that you want to flex on, let's say, because that risk is not going to see a reward the majority of the time. But what it does mean, Tom, is on such a long-range map like this, you're not going to be able to play default, sorry. You're not going to be able to play 2-on-2 and try to take long-range duels with classics. Instead, it's the pack mentality.
Are we in the Bulldog era? Like, it's one of those guns where you kind of don't really see it bought very much, just because comparatively there seem to be so many other guns in these sort of bonus rounds that will just work out a little bit better for you. But we got a couple at least, so maybe the Bulldog's gonna. I know you want to see more Guardians played. I know that's something that's become your obsession. I think every time we ever play, like, oh, Tom, the Guardian's really good, and then I miss every bullet and cry. So, but maybe some of the pros, maybe Scream. I'll look forward to seeing Scream with the Guardian, because I can only imagine amazing things.
Yeah, you need the Odin. You need more chances to hit them. That's what it's all about for you, Tom. At this stage, Wave are just looking for exits. They want to try to drop a weapon and maybe carry it over for themselves and make this costly. You don't want to allow FNATIC to get away with this one for free. At the same time, this map is so open that there's a lot of space that they don't have to, like, if you think about pretty much any other map on the sites, when they exit the site, they have to come through a clear, defined choke point that you can hold. Right here, the choke point that they are holding doesn't have to be peaked. Magnum is safe where he is, down in cave, and so they can take these long-range duels and just completely mow the classics down. And Cider, well, he's just going to go down to the spike.
Yeah, as we've said many a time, this may look foolish. You may be putting some Keck W's in chat, but the fact is, he needs to die there. He needs to go down just to make sure that he gets the extra bonus money. You get quite a bit less if you actually stay alive in these sort of rounds. So only if you have a weapon worth saving is it worth staying up in those scenarios. But this is where things should get a little bit more interesting. Now already we're going to witness Boaster actually investing straight. Oh, maybe not. Okay, he hesitated. I thought he was going to go straight for a rifle here, give them a bit more of a boost to this investment. And also, something that we almost expected going into a map like Breeze, it is all Vandals. Well, all except Murray, who's already dead.
For him, it's nothing. And the Bulldog is now going to receive an upgrade off the back of that. For a second, I thought that switch was a gun, a rifle poking through. It's like, well, how's he done that? But now, the switch is no more. It's been opened, and Durka just runs through the doorway, taking another kill. This is a speed run of a bonus round from FNATIC. And again, a bonus round. That's what this is. Wave have rifles on a map that has a lot of long-range opportunities, and despite Bulldogs and Spectres being in play, FNATIC have a 4v2 post plans, and Wave are already spotted coming out of spawn. There is nothing going their way.
I have a bad feeling about this.
That went by twice as quickly as their eco did. Maybe three times as quickly.
I'm not feeling so confident anymore. Like, I know that it's early days still, but they made that look very easy, and a lot of that just came down to a Bulldog opening duel that came through from Durka, which I kind of didn't really expect him to win. So, yeah, Wave have played this map a few times. It's one that they're definitely comfortable with. But as said, like, a lot of the times the way that teams have beaten FNATIC is almost what Minnie was talking about in their interview. It's just everybody watches FNATIC, either copies what they've done previously, or if you're someone like Liquid, you innovate ways to beat it. Now, you can't do that because they haven't played the map.
That's the problem, right? That's what we were highlighting a little bit earlier on. Is he just trying to jumping one-tap someone with a sheriff through a smoke?
The effort.
You know what?
That's my sort of play.
Gotta shoot your shot, don't you? And, well,
okay.
A couple of shots being shot out. Wish there was another word for that. By Wave, they're managing to find themselves into a 3v3. Again, the retake having to be found, but they seem to be making decent progress until Magnum kind of just destroys their hope. Comes up behind, completely shreds them. Puts 4-0 on the board. FNATIC are looking so good right now. And Wave are going to start to get flashbacks of that previous map, Tom, because it wasn't pretty. 13-1 they lost. Surely, they got to get one on the board soon.
Yeah, and we're seeing an almost identical execute being run by FNATIC almost every single time. It's the same like wall that's going over, the same screen as well that's being utilized just to give them that access to the back of the site. They're then having all of their after plants set up. I think that ice wall in particular is just really annoying because it almost looks like you might be able to just jump over it, but you can't. So it's just in the way awkwardly, and then even gives some angles for them to shoot back out of it if they want to try and play peekaboo. So they've not really had to do much more so far, and you can already see they've just thrown down the same screen and are now going in the other direction.
The big fakes being sold, and you can see that 4 of the Wave players are actually towards that half of the map, if you include middle in it. I'm kind of cheating on that a little bit, but it is what it is. I like Cider's wall here. This is something that has been theorized on a lot when it comes to holding down the B site. The choke point itself, having your orb there, obviously allows you to stop and slow any sort of pushes coming through, and then the wall on backside, in case they do breach it, will allow your teammates to get into position and mount a retake. It's a really nice Viper setup, and I think FNATIC at this point, they're hoping that the presence that they're making over towards the A site causes some sort of aggression, causes these players on B to push through, but that is not the case. Oh, wow. Just snuck a cam onto the site.
He is watching you at all times. Carcass, though, he's got his operator in play. This is where the game might change. He got 2 in that shot. A 2-for-1. He didn't even know the second player was there. Oh, that is a little bit of bad luck for the side of FNATIC, and an explosive first round looking likely now. 15 seconds for Boast to try and make it here. Stop peeking him. Stop peeking him. That is 3 kills in the space of a few seconds. Yes, the remaining players are just going to hide. They're going to hide. I said they're going to hide. Stop peeking.
Oh, man. Cider really wanted that kill. Everyone did. There we go. It's finally found by Zeke, but from what was feeling like a very good round, let's look at the context of it. Carcass manages to find 3 kills in quick succession, one of which being a collateral of sheer luck lining up on the choke point where Magnum was still behind a cage and a Viper's orb. Now, that's not going to happen every round. And then in the 5 versus 1, Boaster almost ends up killing 4 of them. Kills 3. That's going to put a sour taste in your mouth of what should have been a very dominant and morale-boosting round.
Yeah, the worst thing is as well is killing him changed absolutely nothing. Like, it made no difference. There's still a full buy on the other side. Like, if they had brought a lot of these rounds close, maybe. This is cheeky, though. Oh, I like it from Carcass, though. Being more proactive into middle, getting them not only information, but also potentially denying some of these flanks. Like, Magnum has been so irritating so far, but we're back to what we know and love. This basic execute that's coming through from FNATIC, sectioning off the site, but there's a few counters now. The spam through finds a first. Carcass has caught another. Now the screen's gone down, and Carcass is still holding on to this position.
Both jets without their dash, so those aggressive peaks become less and less likely. And in fact, we're going to have a heavy rotate because look at Magnum. He's all the way up in their spawn. And it seems like they have absolutely no idea, no notion that this is possible. He hears the steps and the rotates coming through and is ready to catch Jet as she comes on back through to middle, or indeed to the site. That's the kill that he needed, but now his position is given away and the legwork has to be done by the rest of the squad. Still a heavy stack on the A side, and FNATIC probably don't have a notion that this is the case. Nico, well, he's not going to last very long, nor is Muri. This is a dominant round, at least bouncing back into it, with Durka being in the 1 versus 1, an Operator and a Blade Storm in play, the spike to go down, and Cider known to be playing B. Durka, oh, the little fake cloudburst down on the left side, as he's just going to wait, hopefully bait that player into the open, into open combat, and now he's spotted him. The information to play with on both sides, but the clock plays for Durka. Cider is creeping over, but that Operator is trained on the angle, and Durka just doesn't miss. There is the 5th round for FNATIC, and a disappointing loss for Wave, especially when you take into consideration that the opportunity for a flawless round was fumbled, leaving them in a position now where their economy is in a much worse spot than it really should have been.
Spike down.
I feel like there was like they lost that round off their own mistakes. Like, don't get me wrong, it takes Durka and Magnum to come back and actually clutch that out. They are the stars of the show for the reason. They're the players we watch in the majority of cases in FNATIC, but you spotted Magnum in mid. That's also the 2nd round he's done that. Like, we saw him come through and clean up just a couple of rounds ago where he wrapped around the back. He shouldn't be allowed to do that twice. That need, like, if it's the fool me once, you know the rest. Like, it's one of those things where that's a mistake I'll allow you to make once. The second time, now I'm starting to think like, okay, this is a map that you pick. This is a map that you play. You need to be prepared for someone like Magnum to cause you problems. And that was what, a 5-on-3 that was lost because him and Durka were able to find positioning that they shouldn't have been able to.
A disappointing start for Wave. And now the pause comes in, and Tom, I feel like they're almost just, they're sitting in it at this point. They're facing into a very light buy. A Blade Storm in the hands of Carcass perhaps causes them to think about further investment. Even the likes of a Marshall dropped over could make a decent difference in the hands of the right player alongside that Blade Storm. But the overall scope of this round is that they will get destroyed with these weaker pistols. That is the expectation. And Carcass down to 1 knife already right off the bat with very little damage done.
It's all he needs. It would be impressive. That's the thing, though. He gets the kill and he gets them all back again. You know, it's a nice little gift. Now, already, the flash going to be coming through. That's pretty nice. Nico, what? Okay. 2 kills. You take that one all day long. Now, can he get anything more? Yes, it's going to be Cider on the other side, who's managed to pick off another one and grant a gun. And while Boaster was somewhat playing, this is almost a little bit of a bonus. He decided to buy a Spectre into this one.
Yeah, he probably shouldn't have even needed to use the Spectre at this stage. Wave, as we said, we set the expectation. This is a round that they should have gotten absolutely rolled in. And thanks to a very aggressive play by Nico, a brave one, that actually connects, they're now in pretty much a winning position. It seems almost impossible to lose, right? Cider has got the flank locked down. They have a 4-man stack on the site. They're ready to play on contact. They have a camera watching the walkout. Now Boaster's dead. He's going to be swung on, and that's it. Very, very nice round from Wave. Thus far, though, I noticed that FNATIC, maybe not in this round so much, but in the other round where Wave were on that eco, you saw FNATIC play much, much slower than when they're versus a buy round. And it seems like they almost respect Wave more when there's pistols in their hands than when the rifles are there and they're that little bit more predictable.
That's at least the boost. That's what we were looking for. Like, that's the explosive round that's going to get the blood pumping, maybe bring Wave at least back a little bit after some sillier mistakes in the early rounds. I don't really know how Nico got 2 kills there, I'll be honest. Like, the classic right clicks, getting the job done. Now, it seems like Zik is going to play this one a little bit more passive. Not so much taking the fight. Sturker has been able to get a fair few openers in these upper halls. Now, they can try and split this through into the A site using the door, and they've attempted that once. Now, they bait Zik into the open. Murray's still going to be here, but he's also been punished multiple times trying to face off versus these players. And in the meantime, Boaster is trying to find one with the Hunter's Fury, but Nico and Carcass have gone huge.
Oh, they're back. They are back in the saddle. Wave have started to find the rhythm. Here's the Sheriff from Mystic, though. Good for one. The flash. Oh, that's done him. Surely. Somehow he survived, but as he goes back out, there's 3 players ready and primed to take him down. And Boaster falls, leaving a 3rd in the hands of Wave. Much better. In fact, I'd say 3 times better than what we saw on the previous map. And it's only beginning, right? Their defensive side of Breeze, they've found the solution. Now it's just about continuing to apply it. I don't even know what I want to see them on. Like, talking about round objectives at this stage of the map is ridiculous. But I do feel like with where they're at, finding the rhythm and bouncing back, it's a good sign from the previous map.
I think also with no officials on the board for FNATIC, I feel like the defense might actually be a little bit harder because you haven't been able to put a lot of the strategies you have into play. Maybe the synergy might be a little bit off, whereas I'm always going to expect Durka to get openers and Lurks to be able to come in from Magnum, which, you know what, he's attempting to do that right now. He's just walked straight into the B-site. We haven't seen too many executions in this direction, and this time it seems like the read is pretty decent. Murray already rotating in a little bit earlier after his normal mid-play, and they've kept that one nice and clean. It definitely seems like Wave, after what was a huge round victory, have now managed to push off the back of it.
Yeah, absolutely. The foundation's laid of a good half, and a pause comes in. FNATIC, I presume, calling this one. Maybe feeling that little bit of extra pressure on their shoulders, although I'm sure Wave are going to be happy enough to take a breather and look at how they want to approach this one. When you take a look at the economy for Wave, though, we mentioned, obviously, they had that potential to have a flawless round earlier on, and it didn't quite go according to plan. Now, though, it's pretty stacked. They're looking incredibly good when it comes to those credits.
I think as well, like, it's clearly a big part of their plan to have that operator into Carcass's hands. So the fact that they do have the money now, that they'll be able to afford it for the next couple of rounds, is huge, because he has been incredibly impactful. He's been roaming the map, getting aggressive into mid, trying to deny certain players control of different areas. I think the A-site defense as well. Obviously, I think it's a combination of him and Nico, who over the last few rounds has been the difference maker. But those 2 players, if they're going to have to skimp on pieces of utility or maybe not having their weapon of choice, that could completely change it. So the fact that the likelihood of that now is very, very slim, that's a good sign coming in for Wave.
Most definitely. And the round is just about to kick off after that pause. A little bit of lull in gameplay and hopefully an opportunity for the teams to gather themselves. Now, we kick it back off. And from what we've seen of FNATIC so far, the attack had looked very good when there were rifles in hand. we're talking about rifles. A quick sidebar on that, Tom. You said earlier about it being the Bulldog meta, and look, Dirk has pulled it out yet again coming into this round. So it's definitely getting a lot more love than it ever did before. I've seen it more, I would say, in this series than I did in the last Challengers.
That is true. It really wasn't a gun that many people went for at all, especially with how good and cheap the Judge was, I think. And then before that, we had the Bucky. Like, there were so many other guns. I would say if you're using a Bucky on this map, you're a bit weird. Like, I think maybe there's 1 or 2 positions I could think that it could work, but if you ever have to rotate, you're screwed. And we already have Carcass again. Aggressive position, dash out. Exactly what he needed to do.
Starting to play Durka's game for him in a way. Like, this is something that, hold on, let's just put that point on the back burner, because it looks like we're having a B hit right off the bat inside her. He's using that wall that we talked about earlier, but now he's completely out of juice, and so they have to go out for the peaks. Boaster being swung on from every angle at this point surely doesn't stand a chance, and yet they're not in sync, and so he's able to offer up a couple of 1v1s and put it into a 1v3. We've already seen what Boaster can do in these situations when all he has to rely on is his aim, and again, another headshot to be connected. The spike planted, 4 bullets in the chamber, and a wide swing from Zeke will get the round on the board, but that came dangerously close.
The hours and hours of Boaster's DM sessions have definitely been come to use now. Going to be a little of a walk. We'll get a bit of downtime as we see the operator retrieved. Even though they've got plenty of cash, they're going to make sure that they're not just wasting any extra. Well, they can easily get this one back into play. No time forgotten, but yeah, the thing I've noticed so far, at least, is I think FNATIC have their like clear plan when it comes to their A executions. As I said, they've got their screen, their wall, the lurk. It's pretty much all expected. Whereas a lot of the B hits, I don't want to say are more on the fly, but it does seem like they're almost like they're reliant more so on that mid control. They're reliant on those splits coming in from the side. I just feel like getting into B at the moment is very, very difficult.
Oh yeah, it absolutely is. And I think this is something that when we look at the map, A being quite an open site, but it has the avenues of approach through hull, through middle, and through the cave. And indeed, you can even flank all the way from mid around the back. The issue is when you come to B, there's 2 choke points. And that's pretty much, those are the primary ways you get through. And with a Viper holding it, she can almost solo hold. Look at Carcass. Big change up here. Playing the B side instead. Vulnerable to a peek from window. Though his teammate is watching it from afar. He's hoping that someone gives him that close range peek, but they're falling back, and now Carcass starts to get aggressive. This is where he doesn't really have a mode of escape, and the shot is going to be missed. The dash, in fact, doesn't even connect, and out Durka goes. Not even managing to land a bullet. Either player, in fact, with Carcass only barely receiving a tickle in the end.
Yeah, I think he spotted Cider at the back of the site and realized that, okay, maybe I get away with 1, but the chances are I take a bullet in response. So he decides that Durka, his own survival, is worth more. Again, though, Magnum, they're starting to become a little bit more wise to the plays that he's attempting to make. That short B push with an attempted split. Not really going to be coming through. Now they're going to have the owl drone to try and find out a little bit of extra information. That will be taken out, but now the split begins. And with only 2 defenders and a sort of rotation having to come in, they're reliant on these couple of players, and Carcass is only going to get 1. Cider, though, however, has brought this back into an advantage, and now the rotation is coming.
It is. He's been wall banged up, though. The Hunter's Fury seeks him out, and Durka is the one to finish him. Pushed out of position. 15 seconds remaining. That spike needs to get planted, and it's only on its way to the cross now. The orb is going to go up, but if he falls on the way through, Boaster might just lose the round from that alone. It looks like he'll get the plant as Durka picks up a 4th, seeking the ace out now. They can play this one together. The steps heard. Nico swings, and he's only good for the 1. That is FNATIC finally claiming a 6th round on the board. A good comeback by Wave finally meets a blockade, but it's not over yet. 1 final round to play for, and it could be neck and neck coming out of this half.
You can kind of see why Durka wanted to stay alive in that initial fight, didn't you? He ends up getting 4 kills while just running around the site, clearing pretty much every angle for his team. And, well, they just about get things through. Now, we are still going to have an almost perfect investment here. 8,800 credits spent by Carcass in this round. So he's going to have absolutely everything. We know that Jet's utility has also become quite expensive. And on the other side, because they only have 1 player left, well, I would say there's a few pieces missing, but Durka does actually have his Blade Storm.
Yep, that's going to be the difference maker, right? The fact that he can actually have that sniper shotgun crossover. Look at Doma. Right away, ready to just go on through. They're going to pop a wall. This is being saved. And no! A complete whiff there, falling down from the top of the wall. Good intentions, but not good results. Man disadvantage to play with Viper's Pit down on the B site, but they bypassed it completely. Now coming in behind it from middle. And that plant can actually be secured. But look at Cider. He's not staying inside the ult, instead realizing these players might, in fact, decide to go onto the back site. He's looking for them and trying to seek them out. But as of yet, spotting absolutely nothing, and then gets completely torn by Durka. Boaster with another. Leaves Nico by himself, Tom. It's a 1v3. It's been a messy round, one that's hard for Wave to keep track of, and one that's hard for Wave to win.
Spike planted.
Boaster's eventually going to go down, but I fear it's too little too late. He was just almost playing with the remaining couple of players on that side of the map while his teammates opened up into B. Now they have an afterplant of their own, a Viper's Pit of their own, and sure, there's some utility available, but with the HP only at 30, one knife needed to the leg for him to be picked off, like, I just don't have any belief that Nico's going to be able to pull this one through. He'd need to catch the drop onto Mystic as at least the beginning. The flash is strong, but the headshot slightly better. It's 7-5 for FNATIC. A decent half in the end, but when you consider they were 5-1 up and Wave needed a big turnaround, it's not too bad.
Oh, this is definitely, to me at least, this is a positive sign for Wave. The fact that they bounced it back the way they did despite a huge deficit in the beginning means that they're actually starting to match up to FNATIC on all fronts. The other side of it is, as you mentioned earlier, Tom, you can imagine for FNATIC, with this being their first official, the defense could provide a couple of problems for them. And not like a map that's so challenging for rotations. You really have to get it right the first time around, and it might not be so easy for these guys. But it all comes down to whether or not they've had that immense amount of practice. We don't know how much they've prepared for this one. We know that they've definitely put the time on and that they want to play this map. But Wave chose it. Wave have the history there. Maybe that's going to be what puts them ahead. Let's see what is going to be, or what their attack side is going to consist of, as they've already come in. The first 1 minute and 30 left on the clock, and you can see that their preference is definitely the A side off the bat.
Deploying drone.
I like the cam. It's just going to give them information if there is going to be anybody pushing in the upper halls. Instead, though, we've got the drone coming through, trying to clear some of these closer angles, and Mystic's going to get attacked. He's screwed. That is a really strong out drone over the top. He's taken off the middle of the site, and now the two players actually kind of isolated by the box. They're going to try and wrap around the back of the site, get themselves close to the pyramids, or Madonna, as it's so called by Pansy. Boaster, he looks like he's about to make something fairly risky. It's actually Magnum that gets that kill, though, finding it from afar.
One enemy remaining.
Well, they've put themselves into a man advantage on the Wave side and gotten the plant in. That's something to play with. And look at Z coming right up behind. Doma has absolutely no idea, and he's being spotted down below. The drop shot not going to land. Doma, in fact, able to pop a heal off the back, and he'll have a little bit of HP to duel these players with. A headshot will finish him off, but he can do the same to them, both being sub or equal to 100 HP. Carcass closes it out, though, putting 6 on the board for Wave. And, well, with the pistol under their belt, Tom, this deficit almost fades away entirely, provided FNATIC don't pull out one of those eco rounds that we saw from Wave earlier on.
Yeah, I think we've also just witnessed, like, even though how expensive that out drone is right now, like, they're basically half of your credits gone in the early stages of the pistol round. The value of it was just massive, like instantly picking off Mystic. That's his screen gun as well, which was the counter to them going into this site. That seems to be the way that FNATIC want to play it. Use that screen to at least make things a little bit more awkward, almost create a cross on the map. And by the looks of it, they don't care. They're going to go pushing into it again. Murray still just trying to hunt down this player on the site. It's being dodged. I don't know if he actually saw Mystic out of the corner of the camera there, but I assume now they're definitely going to be expecting someone to be there.
Yeah, I think he would have shown up on the map anyways for the rest of the team to see. And this flash through the smoke, we've seen it again and again. The buff to Sky has been unbelievable. Now, Doma comes in with 1, but the chances here are still very, very slim. We need to see a lot coming out of FNATIC. And with Wave answering up, it seems like this round is a foregone conclusion. And indeed, it plays out that way.
Magnum not even really anywhere he can go here. He's going to walk into 6 utility and, well, Zeke himself. So it's going to be 7-7. Wave looking good so far in the attack, but this is where the rifles come into play. Now, as said, we obviously don't know behind the scenes. Like, maybe Sue can like leak a little bit of information, like how much has actually been practiced on Breeze. Like, just sneak into to Boaster's room and be like, oh, he's playing Breeze again. But chances are we're not really going to know how much they put into it in the scrims. That's the big thing. The scrim bucks. It's something people talk about an awful lot. So we don't know how good they're going to be on this defensive side. As said, though, it does become very different when it comes to officials. And I do feel like on a brand new map, playing the defense is always much more difficult.
Standing ahead.
It's going to be a swift push in. Seems my feed dropped for a second there, Tom, but I'm back, I think. We're good to go. You can see at the moment, on the backside here, Boaster, he's been huge in the past, Vandal in hand, but this time it's a Phantom, the silenced weapon. Let's see if he can make some big noise with it. The flash around the backside isn't going to reveal him. They don't know where he's gone, but Zeke quickly spots him, and the mid control that was left in the hands of Cider lurking around yields big results. Mystic, the final player left alive. A 1 versus 3. That really doesn't feel doable, and it looks like Wave, after equalizing up, may just have put themselves into the lead.
Not really much Mystic can do here, and again, this was somewhat of a bonus round coming through for Wave, so this is a huge victory. A fast take onto the B site, not really looking fantastic for FNATIC and their ability to hold it as well. And this 8th round, it wasn't like they broke the wheel or did anything incredible. It was just a very, very fast take execution and isolating some of the players out of the site. So Mystic has no choice, of course. This is probably one of the ideal save spots. You're just going to be able to fall right back down into your little hidey hole. You just got to hope there's nobody waiting for you in mid.
Well, that's the thing. And you got to hope no one comes in there and sprays you through it. I've seen that happen a couple of times, but at this stage, you know, Wave, they've got the lead back, man. They're looking pretty good. And the bounce back from a 13-1 deficit, and you see the comfort that they get on this map. Maybe pushing them ahead by a tad. And that B hold showing a couple of problems. We talked about how difficult it is to get into that B side, and yet Wave made it look quite easy. And coming into this round now, I don't think FNATIC are going to be feeling all too good. Even looking here, so Mystic has his Phantom, but the rest of the team, they're probably even just sticking down onto classics at this stage. There's not very much that they can buy at all.
Yeah, I'm gonna wait with bated breath just because I do know at some point there's going to be a Durka operator coming in. And it was very similar to what we saw in the last half, that the second that operator was in play, the map changed drastically. So I'm not going to say that, oh yeah, Durka will save them, but he might.
I really like this drone, man. The value they're getting out of it after that wall goes up, it's completely discounted. They know there's a player close left. In fact, there's just so much information swinging Wave's way by getting that one through, and they avoid any sort of an upset, leaving Magnum all by himself in a 1v5 with a Sheriff in hand. This is about as clean as you like it. Let's just hope they don't do...
So annoying.
Let's hope they don't give away that 3 or 4 kills like they did to Boaster, but it looks like it's all good. 9-7. Like you said, though, we're just waiting for that op to come out from Durka. That's where the real turning point's going to be.
Did I just see... Was that an Odin misspy? I saw him have an Odin in his hand for a second. Now, I know that we don't normally talk about that sort of stuff, but if he has gone Odin, I want to know where it's being played. Because especially from what we've seen so far from Wave, it's been very methodical. Their executions look solid. Their information finding has been almost perfect, but they have not done that. Okay, it definitely was a misclick. Well, Durka, here is his operator, Mitch. This is what we were looking for. Already taking a much more aggressive stance into A. It does allow Mystic to potentially rotate, but straight away, I spoke about these Seekers and their farming of them up, and it's going to be a very fast take in, but Carcass is already dead. He's been caught by utility.
Oh, look at that, around the edge of the cage as well. Magnum doing damage and even taking a further kill, but it's not enough. Not yet, at least. They're going to get onto the site and have a spike plant with Viper's Pit to fall back into. FNATIC find themselves on the back foot with very little to answer back in with. Of course, with this operator, it makes it very difficult to play inside of that Viper's Pit. Instead, Durka will be looking around the edges for a victim, and indeed they might just find one because Zeke has been spotted. His cage is there, but it doesn't provide the protection he hoped for. And now Cider, post-plant setups on their way. He has a poison orb, I presume, indeed, so that time is going to run down even further, and then he can look to swing and stop it right at the very edge of the clock. But the wall is in play, and he only realizes it now as he comes into vision. He is taken down, and the defuse is there. FNATIC 8 on the board. They've managed to take this buy round with a bit of a different approach, and I feel like even if Wave go back to A, Tom, their setup that we've seen work for them so many times, that drone through the wall, it's going to be met by Durka by the looks of things, and that could put a real spanner in the works.
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to get tougher from here. I think also credit has to be given to Magnum for his initial setup on the site, like utilizing all of those cages, like having the trips to almost just give him the free information and kills, and also trading out 2 players as they entry, because that was the way they almost just ran through in the rounds before, was that he just like got dominated. This time, denies them initially. I don't think Durka realizes where he is. I think he's got lost in that flash.
He's on a different
planet. They cannot see me, Mitch. Don't worry.
Stood in the open of the site. I'm John Cena, bro. What you talking about? I love this lurk by Zeke. He's waiting for B aggression. Actually ends up catching Boaster, moving in through the tube, and that puts him down to just 5 HP. At elbow completely locked down. FNATIC can't get any flank play from there, and instead they'll look to Magnum coming through the holes, and that position has just been left open. Wave were watching it this entire time, but Nico just started to move towards the site. They'll at least escort Cider back over, but if Magnum has the correct timing on this, he could catch this whole team completely off guard. Ultimately, it comes down to Zeke and what he does, and as we see, he's going to be setting up the tripwire. Nice. Now, Magnum knows his chances of sneaking by are quite slim. Can he get over that? He's jumped over.
Oh, he has. Oh, he's got through. This could be a huge problem. It all depends how quickly they get through things on the site, but he's going to be coming around behind. First one goes down, and Doma has done an incredible job himself, now leaving it all onto Zik, the last man standing, and it is going to be FNATIC taking the round. The flank, maybe not the most integral thing in the end. It's Doma just doming players as they walk through, but nonetheless, that might need to be looked at, because I don't think they were expecting someone to be able to jump over that.
It's a matter of inches, honestly, Tom. If he could have gotten that tripwire placed slightly further back just to deny him jumping up on that ledge, it would have been perfect. And as he was just walking by, throwing it, hey, these things happen. But they cost you rounds, and I think the fact that Carcass was taken down is a big, big thing. Like, if he's still alive in that situation, maybe we end up with another one of these big plays on the operator, but instead, the top fragger is destroyed by a small clerical error. We come into round 19, and I have to say, with the scores neck and neck and the way FNATIC have been playing, Wave are the ones on the back foot, because they're now searching for a solution in how to break this hold.
Yeah, one of the things I was expecting a little more of, though, within this map in general, is some mid plays. Like, a lot of these have just been straight up executions with maybe alert coming in behind. Like, we haven't seen mid dominated, and that looks to be the plan in this round. The problem is, the man you have to face off against when you challenge for mid is Durka, and that is not a fun game to play. The worry, though, is he going to expect the player coming through from that upper position? And the answer was no. Zik has already picked him off.
Yeah, right through the holes to get that kill. The one thing I will say is Doma's position isn't all too frequently held. He is rubbing shoulders with Muri right now, the yin and yang
Romeo and
of
Juliet.
the door hold. Let's see if they're able to, or who's going to be getting the jump on that one, if at all, because Waves seem to be moving their way towards the B site right now, where FNATIC have left just a... Oh no, Doma's going through, and that lurk pays off massively. Muri has cut him down and left Magnum with no rotations, and they've even gotten rid of him. The site is theirs, and a 2v4 right when they need it. Wave are back in the game.
10 seconds left. Spike planted.
Oh, Mystic's going to be caught. Murray's lurk just doing so much damage throughout this match, and now you've got Boaster. Hey, he managed to get 3 in a 1v5, but I don't think he's going to be getting 4 in a 1v4. Like, it doesn't look likely, just opting to try and save that operator into the next round. But there's the first one at least. And we know that they did take some pretty serious damage in the last round, but they're going to want to try and get rid of this operator. Like, not allowing Durka to have that for the next is everything, and this man's lurk in this round was the difference. Like, that is multiple kills now, picking players off. I will also say Zik as well, finding Durka by using those upper halls was a huge play. And that's the thing, I'm not sure, like, with how we've seen this map played so far, I feel like the way that mid is played is so reliant on one player. Like, you have to have, like, the upper halls covered and then mid. And the way that Wave actually adapted was to try and just stack up players to stop the halls pushes that FNATIC were doing because they were doing so much damage. Now, that was just left solely to Durka to try and cope with both. And I just don't think that works.
Yeah, it's a little bit too much. You need to at least have a tripwire or something around there. That's the adaptation that FNATIC have made.
Hello.
They've got their tripwire inside of halls this time, and obviously with Durka being caught on the way back, he pretty much just has to go back through middle doors. You would have imagined. Then leaving the B site completely open isn't optimal, but when you're obviously playing with pistols, sometimes you have to roll the dice and take that gamble. And for Wave, they're rolling right into this. 4 players, or now 3, as the rest of the team starts to slowly shift towards B. The lack of contact starting to spook them a little bit. But the pistols can still do a lot of damage, and Wave have 0 information on the way through.
Yeah, I question if this is going to be worth the risk anymore. The amount of players that have rotated in, they've spotted that Sova was there as well. Knowing that there's going to be at least a couple of players within the site, they're actually going to start their move back. Now, this does mean that the likelihood is they're going to have to face into the Blade Storm that was popped earlier in the round. So it might just get a little bit tougher, and Boast is making a move as well. There are actually 5 ultimates in play for FNATIC here, so maybe they're going to try and cheese it with the ults alone.
Oh, there's a Hunter's Fury popped, and although it's found a tag, it's not going to find a kill. Muri and Cider both able to pick up kills. Seconds. They can go through mid, just about knife out, run to the site. That spike, if it was dropped, it would all be over, but they'll get there just in time. Oh. Nice and safe. 2 seconds to spare on the clock as the spike goes down. And now it becomes very difficult for FNATIC. I mean, damage is probably the name of the game here, but Wave, they're approaching that. Well, that was unexpected. 2 quick kills. There's plenty of time. They can definitely go for this. And in fact, Boaster can grab himself an upgrade onto a Vandal. I think the time is going to be too big of an issue. Well, okay, well, now it's done. Now it's done.
Yeah, although using the Blade Storm would be nice, he has actually picked up a rifle as well. So he is losing a gun by diving in here, wanting to make things more costly for Wave. I have to say, the lurk again from Muri is the difference. Like that 1 kill he gets into the site, realizing it's clear. If that, you even said at the time, if that is 2 seconds later, that doesn't work anymore, because they wouldn't have had enough time to get the plant down. So good mid-round calling, but also solid play from him. And I have to say, considering what we saw yesterday when I think when we were watching maps like Haven, we watched Split, I was thinking of him as that really aggressive, like fast-paced player, using that Sky as almost a duelist, bursting into sites. This game, he's been calm, he's been collected, he's been lurking in the backline, sitting in the shadows while his teammates make noise and make plays. A very different style of Murray's play, but I'm enjoying it just as much.
A bit of a cat jam in the corner. I like it. You got Viper. That animation looks very funny. It's just sat in the corner like, what? Little hand out. Ready to pop the wall, of course, across the A site. And the A site seems to be definitely the preferred spot for popping these walls down. I'm surprised we don't see more on the execute into B, though. Like, when you put one on the attacking side, I'm talking about. When you put one down on, like, the right side of the pillar, you can get yourself completely isolated left corners, but it seems to be heavy preference, especially in the early round, onto the A site, which is constantly
I think we've
forcing.
Seen it once, right?
Yeah.
It was just a straight down, almost in line with the wall, just a section off the site completely.
And I feel like it's almost to force FNATIC into playing these closer range angles, because if they play behind the wall, they have 0 information, right? So a lot of the time they're going up to it, they're using their drones, their recons, and that's putting them in a spot then where Wave, combining the drone that they're using now, basically, if you're playing close, you get spotted and you get fought and probably killed. And if you play further back, well, they get side control. It's basically 2 or 3 pieces of utility that get the site pretty consistently for them. And FNATIC have made the adaptation now and playing super passive, but actually stacking it up. And a huge fake sold on the back of the Seekers, the drone, and the push out to the A side. Even the kill from Yuri, they walk straight through Viper's pit, and Mystic is caught with his pants down.
These have been some phenomenal calls over the last few rounds from Wave. That is a risky play to make. They throw 2 players into the A side as well. Murray is still holding 2 there. There are still 2 players on A. They've had to throw in that res to bring one of them back, and he's killed off another while Karka's defends. Murray has got 3 kills on a fake on A. It leaves just Durka left alive. A 1v4 scenario. The fake gets more kills than the actual execution. That's ridiculous.
Well, I don't think Durka's getting away with this one, Tom. It would be ridiculous if he did it as well. And, well, he's going to keep them on the side, I guess. Run down that economy as much as he can. Because he's certainly not winning it.
Well, the op's gone. I assume they're going to have enough money to buy another one anyway. But it's definitely a very costly piece of weaponry that's gone out of this round. 12-9. We are seeing, well, at least what I wanted to see from Wave. After the start they had, after the mistakes that were made with players being able to wrap around. We also saw 7 rounds in the first half going the way of FNATIC, but it has been that sort of defensive side that's been a lot harder to deal with. Some really solid executions coming out from Wave. Superb fakes, and as said, the calling has been spot on from this team in this map.
Wave are a team who in Challengers 1 ended up having to face FNATIC and beat them. In Challengers 2, they then went up against, I think, Pact and lost, but they would have faced FNATIC had they have won that and one more game. It seems like every time that Wave enter these tournaments, they end up against one of the best teams, if not the best. It's just FNATIC by the looks of things. It's always the barrier to entry. They beat them once, they failed to face them the second, and now they're looking to do it again. And here on Breeze, despite a terrible first map, probably the worst game of Valorant I've seen Wave play, at least when I've been casting them, they've bounced back. They've now got the site with the standard A hit we've talked about many a time, and it looks like they're set to close this one out. Very, very weak weapons for FNATIC coming in on this retake. Durka starts it off well with one on the Guardian, and a second, in fact. He is clocking up kills, but eventually completely dealt with. And it seems like only a matter of time until this round goes their way, but maybe not. Nico has to do it all. A 1 versus 2, and the first is found. Boaster creeping up behind with just 45 HP. A Guardian in hand. He needs the headshot, and it's Nico that will find it. 13-9 Wave. They've bested FNATIC here on Breeze, and we're going to be going all the way to map 3, Tom. Ain't no rest for the wicked in this series.
Yeah, I spoke to Karkas this morning. He said, you know, I'd love them to let us have Breeze as our pocket pick, and they may have given us a little bit of doubt when it came to the first few rounds, maybe even the first half, but when it came to their attacking side, honestly, it was brilliant. I thoroughly enjoyed that, especially for our first cast. I feel like you normally expect at the beginning of a map maybe some looser play, some very aggressive play, but they came in structured. They had a plan in the majority of their rounds, be it a deep fake or a late lurk or even just a quick switch in the mid rounds, and yeah, it was honestly very enjoyable. I'm looking forward to the future of Breeze.
As am I. We'll see more of this map as time goes on, but the next map up, Tom, I don't know if it looks quite as good for Wave. They have the advantage here of playing a map that FNATIC haven't played, but now it's Bind. And I think most people will know Bind is a pretty strong map for FNATIC. We'll be going to that map in a little bit, but for now, it's a break followed by the wonderful analyst desk to break down all of the Breeze action we just saw.
Welcome back to the closed qualifiers of VCT challenges, where Wave have leveled things up against FNATIC on Breeze. I'm your host, Yingsu, and I'm joined once again on the desk by John and Ryan. Now, that's what we call a comeback. That was a great showing from Wave there. And John, you were excited about Breeze. Is that what you expected from these teams?
I loved the amount of kills we saw from the operator during that game. I think it was fantastic. I'm a big fan of, obviously, the mobility on the jet, being able to open up the map and really sort of control in a lot of those spaces. So fantastic stuff. Cyphers, great control on those flanks. I maybe thought going into it, it wasn't going to be as impactful as it was. I feel like flank guarding was so important on these attacking positions, and whenever they were able to do it, either team, it did come out very well on those attacks. Unfortunately for FNATIC, a little bit weaker for them.
Yeah, when I said that, like, with Wave, I wanted to see them come back and perform like I've done, the more impressive thing about this is this doesn't look how they played against FPX, which is very explosive, very tight. There's a lot of really nice peaks and trades in this reel that we're showing, but it's one of those things where they played super open. They were using the map really well, and it was difficult for FNATIC to actually work with any information, and Wave completely exploited that.
Yeah. It was very hard there, sorry.
It's all right. As you guys can see the stats there as well. It's actually, it doesn't tell the full story there, Ryan, because Carcass on that operator was just incredible.
Yeah, I mean, there's a beautiful round. Almost a bit of luck, but I think that's exactly what Carcass needed after having a horrible first map on Icebox. To be fair, when you're looking at a 13-1, 6 or 7 out of those rounds potentially for Wave, they probably had to eco. They had no money. They had nothing other than sheriffs at most. So Carcass actually getting the operator and keeping hold of it for a consistently long time allowed him to actually not only get kills and be a threat for FNATIC, but to be able to hold on to different angles, to basically be a glorified and very expensive killjoy turret to watch areas of the maps. Because if he doesn't get a kill, he's able to at least hold down a point and go, there's nobody in A, there's nobody in their cave, it's probably more towards mid and B. And when you have a Viper over there with Cider, who had an amazing game as well, they have both the main sites held down. The FNATIC weren't really exploiting mid or double doors or tunnel that much, so it was kind of easy for Wave to keep everything in check on their defense.
And not only on the defense, Ryan, I mean, on the attack, we saw what a terror that Murray was, right? Like the amount of times that he was just catching people on those flanks, catching them on those rotates. I mean, in that final round as well, like they were just given the complete slip, right? And he was just picking up the pieces. There was the round, he was able to just get like 3 or 4 kills on a site that was across the map from where the spike was. So I think the guy on attack has learnt this map and is potentially a bit of a Breeze specialist here, because that was phenomenal coming out from Murray on that attack. Honestly, invaluable to his team.
Doing all of that on the Sova as well, you know, not something that you'd expect, Ryan.
No, and it's difficult to play Sova on this map as well, because you throw in a recon dart, site's so big, it could pulse out and just hit absolutely nothing, but he knew exactly where to play it, and he was a constant threat. That round where he killed 3 people just on A, not only was it good just to get the kills as the execute was going on to B, it kept the attention of 2 players that were just looking out for one person, whilst the rest of FNATIC was struggling with Wave executing on that B site. I think Cider also had a horrible icebox overall. He didn't look comfortable on the Viper. And usually when you compare that up to Mystic, who's one of the best Vipers in Europe, it's always going to be a bit of an unfair match. I'm really interested to see how Bind's going to go. I think obviously there's a big lean to FNATIC being on this map. But I do think that if we see Miri actually play in that Sky that we've been talking about loads that haven't seen so far, and FNATIC don't play Sky, that could be a bit of an advantage, especially with how much FNATIC struggled with information and how Wave were able to slip into the cracks a little bit and count them out for it.
Well, now, before we move on to Bind, because we kind of theorized about what went wrong with Wave on that icebox, John, what do you think went wrong for FNATIC there? They looked so good in the first 6 rounds.
I feel like I think it is maybe a case of new map difficult to play. It's a very, very difficult map to gain that information on. I mean, you know, Ryan spoke about how just now the information didn't seem like it was quite there for FNATIC, but on Bind, they know how to gather this information, right? They know it like the back of their hand. We know how strong they are here, and they have their setups to be able to isolate those pieces of information. When you move it onto an unknown map, all of a sudden you're trying to control channels of the map, control rotational paths, in a position where you're not entirely sure that those paths are always going to be used, or you're not sure that that's going to be the priority path that people are going to take. So you're trying to lock down those traps. I mean, there was an instance where, you know, that trap was across the zip line going upwards, and it was able to be jumped over completely, that they were able to exploit that. But it's such a difficult time, really, to be playing strong on this map when it comes to the information game. On Breeze, I felt like that's what Muri did better on that attack, and what in general Wave did better. But over on Bind, maybe a different story.
I think for Breeze as well, FNATIC never played it. I think Tom echoed a sentiment that is very strong after the fact that FNATIC lost it. It's just they've tried a lot of stuff in scrims, but officials are a very different environment, and they're not going to get away with much, potentially based on who they're playing at that point. We've seen Wave pick up this map in officials 3 times, beating CGN and TenStar. And TenStar are a really good team. So seeing them win dominantly 13-5, 13-9, and 13-1 against Superior goes to show that this isn't just a map that Wave are good on. This is one that they clearly thrive on playstyle-wise. And yeah, teams have to be careful of that in the future.
Well, Bind, as you both have mentioned, is more comfortable for FNATIC, but that's before their age and comp changes, because we have to keep in mind that so far at VCT Stage 3 for the qualifier stage, Wave are actually unbeaten on Bind, Ryan, whereas FNATIC lost that yesterday.
I mean, yeah, but they lost the G2 that really weren't taking any prisoners. I think my problem, though, with FNATIC's composition is what I loved about it before is that you have the Silver in the Sky, and you usually say on defense, put them on the different sites. The Sky over on B and Elbow, and then the Silver on A. It really allows you with the Aldrin and Trailblazer at different times during the round as it progresses to just go down A showers to see if there's anything going on there with an Aldrin, or a Trailblazer down B long to see if anybody's there. When you only have the Silver and you don't have that Sky anymore, it's very difficult to know exactly where this executes coming from the attacking team. That's the only concern I have with this composition change. And now it's a big question for FNATIC. Do we go with the new composition that we're playing that still looks a bit wonky, or do we go with a tried and tested composition that we played way back when in Masters 2 and Reykjavik and feel that we could just outplay on our old comp?
Yeah, it's really the choice that they have to make, and I think there is no kind of wrong choice. I think they are familiar enough with this Bind map that I think that they could pull either out the bag. Even off that, it was still close. They had a 13-1. I think they've still got momentum, and they've got plenty more to give.
I'm with you there. I mean, yeah, losing against G2, you do have to look at your opponent, but Wave have proven that they really cannot be underestimated here. They've done very well on Breeze, like I said, unbeaten so far in the qualifiers on Bind, so there is a chance that they can pull something out of this one, which would definitely be a reverse sweep upset. But like we have said, it is 1-1 between FNATIC and Wave. We will be heading into map 3 with Mitch and Tom right after this break.
were shot to death last night. Now you're lying in my bed. Must have been a dream last night, but I can hear what you're saying. You were shot to death last night. Where's my cup of coffee? I was dreaming something bad last night. Can't you hear what I'm saying? One gunshot, and I forgot to look at you, to look at you, to look at you, to look at you. Two gunshots, and my thoughts. We're not with you, we're not with you, we're not with you, we're not with you. You were shot to death last night.
And we're back with the final map of this series. It has been an interesting journey. A dominant first map by FNATIC, a close one by Wave over on Breeze, and now it's time to go on to Bind. Tom, this is going to be a pretty high intensity match, really, isn't it? Because we know FNATIC are strong here. And when you look at the other side, well, it's not like it's a terrible map for them, but I don't know if they'll want to face FNATIC here.
Yeah, I think that with this map, Vito, it was almost like looking at the lesser of evils for Wave. Like, what are you going to end up on? Like, especially with the fact that now the higher seed, in most cases, will get to choose 2 maps. It kind of gets to the point where you almost have to look at it and go, okay, it's going to be a little bit rough. Now, for FNATIC, they've actually stuck with the same comp that we saw previously. So we've still got all of those controllers in play. I don't think it was necessarily the comp that they lost to when it was facing off against G2. It was kind of Mixwell. Like, the guy had an unbelievable performance. But I do want to point out on the other side of things, we're actually going to have this double flash comp, which is something I know for a fact Wave are actually very excited about, and to see if other teams are going to be able to face off against it and how it's actually going to work out for them now facing off against FNATIC.
Well, I really enjoyed watching, it was Nico on the previous map, right, who was playing the Sky, and those flashes to counter smokes, and obviously the Viper Wall in particular was really, really strong. So seeing that alongside Breach having the recent buff that he got, that seems like a very, very powerful composition to be rolling with.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that the way that you're going to witness Murray actually play is going to be slightly different to what we saw from Nico. Now, Nico definitely still had his aggressive moments. Like, he had like these pot flashes in, he had these plays forward, but Murray is far more aggressive than he ever will be. It is like a second duelist. It is like he's looking to get up in the face of his opponents. And I think realistically, he is going to be someone that they have to deal with. And considering that we know that FNATIC do love these sort of after-plant setups, if he's going to stop them getting into those positions, that is one way that you might actually be able to beat FNATIC.
You know, it's one of the things that you mentioned, just that Sky is like the second duelist in the hands of Muri, and I do enjoy that, because with the meta the way that it is right now, with the updates that she's gotten, it does very much put her in a position where you have the choice to play her support or to play her duelist, or to hybrid the two, which is more common. Now, look at FNATIC right off the bat. They're on the attacking side, and they're already in hookah, rushed on in with the usage of a fault line. And that's given them the opening. What's Muri doing here? He's just ran in at them. They're going to crunch right into hookah, and it hasn't worked out with Zeke and Muri both falling. It's now a 2-man disadvantage for Wave on the retake.
Spike planted.
Yeah, both players coming in from hookah, and I think they're just trying to sneak their way through. It's a trade, but that's enough for Doma. A 3rd kill already for him in this round. The Owl drone, as pricey as it may be, is going to give them every single piece of information that they need. And realistically, I was going to say Carcass has no chance, but he now should have a decent idea, at least where one of these players, he isolates the battle with Durka, but the classic this time is enough.
1-0 for FNATIC. They've picked up the pistol and gotten their foot in the door here on Bind. 3K from Doma, a very different start to the half than what we saw over on Breeze, where he had one of the worst performances that I've seen from him. So the fact that he's already answering up in the pistol fills me with a little bit of faith, Dom.
Yeah, it's definitely a good sign. Again, he just seems to be the man on this team that can play any role. I am a huge fan of him as a player. The fact that he's gone from being the out-and-out star of this team, playing on Raze and just dominating in most cases. Not by any stretch being moved off of that role because of his performances, but moved off of it to make space for someone like Durka, who's also going to be this aggressor in a lot of cases. But now he's almost proven that, okay, he can't just play Sage or Omen on maps like Ascent. He's now even bringing in Brimstone as well. So definitely been like a backbone for this squad. I also have to say I'm quite excited to see Breach coming back into the meta because he's an agent I enjoy watching. I think the setup for teams, I think Nico's another one that has proven how valuable he can be, especially in retakes. I'm interested to see who's going to come out on top because obviously the man on the other side is Magnum, who on a lot of maps is more so known for his lurking.
I do look at these compositions as well, though, and think, you have essentially Carcass and Durka, two players that you definitely want to deal with on the server. Now, Durka not playing the Jet operator on this map, it's a little bit different, but you have that heavy smoke presence to limit the angles that Carcass can really play on versus the flashes to really gain the entry from Wave. Two very different interpretations. And look at this in the second round already. Wave have managed to find themselves a one kill, but it very quickly fell apart. A bombardment of utility towards them, as well as pretty much every player in FNATIC ready to take the fight on long, leaves them with just one kill in their back pocket after a full eco. It's not the end of the world, but they certainly wanted more than that.
Yeah, I think also they're maybe a little bit unlucky in this case that the way that FNATIC countered them was just to group up, which in a lot of cases is a great way to play the round. But say, for example, they'd push aggressively through bathrooms, they would have come up across basically no one and maybe got an individual duel along the way, which then turns it into a gun, etc., etc. So the counter there from FNATIC was actually pretty strong as well.
Those flashes are so strong, man. Completely blinded up in the corner. Zeke does get traded out, though, as he continues forward, and FNATIC end up with at least something to show for it. In fact, I think even an upgraded weapon off of that. Oh, Mystic, though, caught by the double push down middle. That's the spike in the open, Tom. That's a problem.
A round as well where, again, we talk about this as maybe 2-3 kills for FNATIC is going to end up being pretty good. I think Doma realizes that there is going to be players zoomed in on this spike, so may just wait to see if Boaster can throw out a little bit of extra utility, if there is any available. Of course, we can't see... Oh, no, we can see the stars. I didn't even notice that was added. Maybe I'm just a little bit blind, but it is still going to be the trades anyway. Leaving Durka, last man standing, still a Vandal in hand, and the spike as well.
Well, at this stage... Tough clutch, but no better man for the job. Jumping out, he's going to be spotted, but not taken down. That was a close one. Looking for the spams, a brave attempt. The plant comes in. The 1v2 commences. He has a drone to play with, but no safe haven to really pop that drone out. You don't want to do it. They could be on long. They could be coming through the other side of elbow. So he will retreat all back, all the way through to long. Now, with the wall that's coming up here from Wave, this almost provides him that opportunity to drone through. If he can manage to tag one of them up, knowing that the other is potentially on the spike when they do go in for it, that Clock could definitely be an ally of his, but the wall is going to be... Oh, now it goes up! Oh, what a shot by Durka! The drone out will provide the tag, and now it's trouble, because the wall bangs can come in. He's out of ammo, just going to pop the recon, buy that little bit of extra time, and try to catch him. Oh, look, shock darts as well on the way. It's nasty, but Durka won't get it done. The time is so low, though. Muri only gets it halfway before the clutch comes in. 3-0 FNATIC. Have won that one out, and big props to Durka for making that one work.
This seems to be just a thing in every single map that we've seen from Wave, is they just can't get off to a good start. Like, again, like we talk about even going on Breeze, which they won. They lost a 5 versus 3 because of a wraparound. This time, what was that, a 1 versus 3? That they just lose to Durka, isolating different duels, because he killed the player before this when he got the spike back as well. So I don't know what it is about these early round mistakes, but they're really making this like an uphill battle for themselves every single time. And unlike with Breeze, this is a map that for a long time FNATIC have been considered one of the best, if not maybe even the best in the world.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Sentinels maybe kind of stealing that one away slightly.
They're just the best at everything, though.
Yeah,
I don't know if that
doesn't
counts.
Hey, it was an OT. It was 16-14, so let's give him a little bit of credit. Zeke, here with the sheriff in hand. He's going to look for a player, look for a victim, but find nothing but bullets coming his way. He's out of here, and so the plan's going to come through. But Wave still have a couple of players who can come through and deal some damage. And that is ultimately the goal of this round, isn't it? Look at that, Muri on the spray. Oh, if he had a Vandal or a Phantom there, even a Spectre, that could have been a disaster for FNATIC. They've managed to evade Death's clutches for now.
Yeah, they wanted to kill Ziggs so badly that they've gone pushing and they've actually given up other map control. Carcass has managed to sneak his way through. Bladestorm pop, they need to kill him off, and that's exactly what Boaster will do. But they've still not cleared out this other player from behind. The wraparound comes in. No! Oh, he gets there in the end, but it's a little bit too late. By that point, no ammo remaining, and it will be FNATIC to convert it. Definitely not as clean and crisp as we normally see from FNATIC. But hey, 4-0 up, finance is still fine, but now there needs to be a response, and I wonder if maybe that operator from Carcass could be the difference maker again.
Yeah, don't worry, Zeke. No one saw that. No one was watching. It's all good. You hate it really when it's the as soon as the first bullet misses, the panic sets in. You're tapping away, hoping it lands. But at least we said the point of that round was damage. They succeeded. They got a lot of damage done. They've made the FNATIC economy a little bit more modest. And now it's time to get that little bit extra. 4-0 on the board, and Wave have the operator out. Carcass has been pushing down long slowly this entire round, but it seems like they're aware of it. And maybe they spotted him when we went off screen for a second. Because now he's just posted up and waiting for someone to peek into him, but it's unlikely. FNATIC, decide to give him that fight. In fact, he goes all the way forward and nearly loses his life. In fact, I think the wall absorbed some of those bullets and made it so he's on 26 HP.
Oh, okay.
It's an early pop.
Darker actually, yeah, he's actually going to pop it. He did tag a player, but I thought once he got the tag, he might actually go for it. Of course, then it almost fades off. We're going to see the orbital strike. This is just an ultimate round being thrown in. FNATIC putting everything to make sure they get into the site, and, well, it has worked pretty damn well.
That it has. The plant is already coming in, and the orb just about stolen away. Carcass wasn't able to get it. I thought he did, but never mind. That's a shame. And they're just saving their weapons here, which is understandable. When you're in this 2 versus 4, you're not really going to get away with a whole lot, are you? I have to say, Tom, when you look at the scoreline of 5-0, it's not like Wave haven't made this comeback happen before, but they're being rolled on at the moment. Like, it feels way more dominant than the start of Breeze did.
Yeah, I do start to worry that this is almost just going to be like a battering sandwich. Like they've got the one nice map in the middle, the stuff that they enjoy, and then they've just got 2 like horrible moldy pieces of bread that are going to be on the outside of it, where they just get destroyed in both. Because right now FNATIC looking comfortable once again. Their executions into the site have been very clean. They've had maybe a few slip-ups here and there versus pistols, but in the buy rounds not quite so much. They even win the bonus round thanks to Durka just pulling out miracle rounds that never really should be happening. And these are things that they're more reminiscent of that first map where, sure, maybe they get the opener here and there, maybe they'd have a few aggressive pieces that would be working, but ultimately it just ends with them getting shut down. Now, to be a bit more like Breeze, I feel like there needs to be that response, that huge victory. Like we saw them win that pistol round where it was like a double classic kill at the beginning coming out from Nico, or just some more. I feel like it has to be some aggressive plays, because I'd still feel it's the same with FNATIC. Like once that spike goes down, I just don't have much belief, not in Wave, in most teams, to pull those retakes off.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the tougher things, and I think when you play against FNATIC and all the utility that they have, it's almost impossible a lot of the time. And I do think that when KO comes in, that's where we're going to see a very big change to that. Like, post-plan setups are going to be very, very difficult to make happen consistently with that agent. But again, it's a little while until him. I'm so excited. I'm excited. Do you know what I'm most excited for, though? Is to see what a team like FNATIC does with him. Like, that's it. Because I have my ideas of what that agent can do. But when you see some of these guys, and they're able to surprise us pretty much every single time.
Here.
I think I'm more scared of Angel.
Yeah.
Like, I think Angel on a KO, he just goes, no abilities for you, and just runs through and headshots everyone. Carcass aggression, though. It pays off initially, but now the battle for bathrooms has only gone FNATIC's way. Carcass, though, repositions again. He's just nailing everyone with the operator. 3 kills off the back of the sniper. And this time, they're a little bit more prepared for Durka. No more miracle clutches as Wave will take their first round.
Well, Tom, I've got some great news as well. I've managed to rig up a setup here, so I can actually hear the game now, and I'm very happy. I'm very happy getting to hear steps and gunshots and all the fun stuff that goes
Just to put
with
this into perspective, by the way, none of the fault of any of Mitch's issues has been down to the production.
Oh, yeah.
It's solely down to you.
I don't know what it is. My PC has decided today that
everyone else's is fine.
It doesn't want to live. I don't know what's happening, but it is what it is. Gonna have to have a little rebuild of it in a little bit. But for now, we're gonna take a look, and the glorious op shot rings out. Music to my ears. 5-1 on the scoreline. FNATIC looking very good, and with Mystic tagged up at the very beginning of this round, no one's able to pop him a heal, so he's gonna have to deal with that, unfortunately, for the rest of this round. And it's a shame because this pretty much discounts. Like, it might seem like a trivial point, but he can't use his Viper's Pit. Like, on 35 HP, that is a waste of an ultimate. 1 bullet through the smoke, and you are gone.
Take flight.
Wouldn't be ideal. Both teams actually going for information plays at almost identical times. The site completely smoked, but it's this man again. Carcass's operator being a huge difference within this series. Aggressive plays. Now, site has been caught there a multitude of times. Like, that aggressive peak just hasn't been working out for him again. We're going to see the orbital strike to actually try and deny the rotations, but Nico's doing a good job of holding on to long. Guess who it is? It's Carcass once more. He's found himself 3 already for the second time. They've won 1 round so far. This might be the second. And all of it just seems to be coming off the back of this operator. Doma even going to get tagged up by the aftershock, leaving him on 30 HP.
And they've spotted him coming back as well. Zeke's finger is on the trigger, ready to just pop off, but Doma catches the headshot. There's no time.
Does he have time?
No way he gets there in time. This is the end of the round, and a second on the board for Wave.
Yeah, would have needed actually a few more seconds to be able to get that. Now he will earn a little bit extra from the plant, so it's not the end of the world. It is an ultimate orb. You might be thinking, oh, well, what's the point? But it's a little bit extra at least. Look at that scoreboard right now for Wave.
That's ridiculous. It's actually insane. Carcass is such a good player. And, you know, you've been ranting and raving about this guy since the start of Valorant. All I hear whenever I see Wave is playing, oh, I know Carcass. I was speaking to Carcass. You gotta...
Hey, I casted his first, I think his first CSGO LAN victory. I'm allowed to do that.
Here he goes again. Yeah. Go on. Tom is basically that Twitch chat spam, you know, like whenever Carcass's first name is...
I'm like the hipster. I'm the hipster of Carcass plays.
I knew him way before he was good.
I knew him before he was cool, like, you know, but nowadays, like, now he's popular.
Oh, look at that 3K from Robertus. Yeah, I said Robertus. That's Carcass's real name. I know him.
Well, I call him Rob.
Robbie boy in with a 3K. Look at him go. No, but in all fairness, though, Carcass, he's come a long way, man. And, you know, I always knew that he was a decent player, but your Ranton and Raven got me really paying attention to him, and you see what he can do. But Nico, he's going to be the star of this round because that's the spike dropped right at his feet. This could be a big play if he can manage to find that second kill on long. And with Zeke on the backside, he is just tearing this team apart. Eventually taken down, but it doesn't matter. If Nico falls, Zeke's there to pick them back up and put 3 on the board for Wave. It's a nice little comeback for them, and the scoreboard starts to look a little bit less ridiculous, although still pretty top heavy with 393. 393 ACS.
So Magnum has 4 kills. I'm fairly sure he got 2 of those with aftershocks.
Oh god.
It's not something I ever would have expected to say. But it does less damage on the individual hit now that there's 3, but it does seem like people are actually managing to do more with it, which is a little bit odd. Now, again, it's looking like there's some aggression here, but is this bait? It is. That's wonderful. They put him in aggressively. Carcass, he's not going to get out of there. He's caught the edge. Oh, we ranted and raved about him, and we've cursed him as usual. Magnum is going to end up finishing off the second as Zik goes down. And while it's looking like another afterplant, unless Cider can pull off a miracle play.
Yeah, this would be, I think, his first kill on the board if he can get it done, and there it is. Let's see what else he's got up his sleeve now. Something to work with, but here's the Viper's Pit. Mystic couldn't use it earlier on, but now it's active and Yuri's down. Numbers starting to dwindle over on the Wave side, and control into this side is pretty much non-existent. Wouldn't be surprised to see a save being called, but it looks like they still want to send it and try to make this one happen. Cider sneaks into the Viper's Pit. There's the kill. Mystic now has no Viper's Pit. It falls down, opening the side up completely. But the post-plan setup is strong. They're going to be able to play from back. I think they have a molly on the way. Indeed, it's just landed, pushing Cider off it. They try to force the duels instead. But now, all of Wave are dead. It will be another on the board for FNATIC 6, as they guarantee themselves at least an even half, but knowing how they like to play here on Bind, how comfortable they are, how good they are, you can't help but feel like that number is going to increase by the end of the half.
It's actually really interesting, though, that we are now seeing Doma a couple of times using that orbital strike just to clear those aggressive angles because of how annoying those plays have actually been. Because the norm, at least from what I've seen, is you just go, oh, Lamps is really hard to escape. Let's just stick it on Lamps. That position is clear, and then we go pushing into the site. This is aggressive from Wave, though. They've just used the ult straight down mid, and they're actually peeking and holding into that aggressive angle. But eventually, I was going to say they decided to give it up, but it seems like Zik has not.
Oh, yeah. No, he's fighting for it. But Durka down. We're in a spot for FNATIC. Low HP on Boaster. Durka out of the round. You know, you're again thinking about how to deal with Carcass. Well, they've done that. Doma just pre-fires him as he comes around the corner, popping a quick headshot to even up the numbers. Now, FNATIC, they had focused, or wanted to focus, on this B site, but it looks like there's going to be a change of plans and change of direction. Instead, taking that TP over and shifting their way through a middle. I do wonder, though, it doesn't look like they're full committed to A just yet, as they sneak on through, being very, very conscious of one of the Wave players having pushed up in the early round, but Wave have no read. They don't know that there was a full B control. They don't know anything that was going on, so they're left in a 2v2 waiting to play reactionary again.
So we're going to see Magnum take a little bit of a tag. Cider now realizing that they're coming through. Now, Boaster's done well to catch off these players through the bathrooms, and he will do so once again. The plant already coming through, and Magnum with the sneaky play through is already going to pick off another. A good execute from FNATIC, piecing things together, and Zik, last man standing. 1 versus 4. I think this Nebula might actually be the death of him. He's hoping to try and find something. The Trace is coming through, and Doma, he's been so good over the last few rounds. High impact frags, orbital strikes on point, and he's almost earned another one, Mitch.
Not too shabby. And considering the impact that orbital strike has had, I think it's, I don't know, Bind in particular, always going to be a good thing to have in your back pocket. I do find it interesting that they are using it for those aggressive positions, as you were saying earlier, instead of what typically would be, you know, inside of Lamps or in these positions where you can't physically escape it. We've seen combinations of Molotovs, of snake bites to keep people locked in, and then orbital strike to either kill them or zone them into the other utility and disadvantageous duels. It's a bit of a different approach this time around. And FNATIC at 7-3, they're looking at a pretty fast A hit, which is the correct read on this one. There's a lot of the presence from Wave. It was on B. Now it's up behind them, actually, because look at this. Nico's already basically a few meters away from joining the squad, but he's gone.
Yeah, I think they realized with all the utility that was used there to delay that the likelihood is there was some sort of push. Okay. Murray's at least been able to find one. I don't know if it's going to make a difference in the round victory. Doma again, we know that he's only 1 away from utility that would pretty much end this round in its tracks, and they don't even need it. 8-3, the short resurgence of Wave has quickly dwindled as we're, well, not quite as bad as what we saw previously when we were on Icebox, but it is still looking like basically a one-man team.
Yeah, exactly. Not to the same exaggerated extent as Icebox, but if you look at the context of the rounds that they've won, Tom, as you said earlier, 2 of them were on Carcass, basically, and they've won 3. So that's not really great.
It's not a good stat, is it? It really isn't.
It's not inspiring.
It doesn't fill you with confidence, especially as well. Like his operator's not going to have as much on the attack. The timing from Mystic could not be better, and I feel like this is what FNATIC have adapted. Okay, you want to get aggressive. We're just going to wait patiently. We're going to watch for you to make these pushes. We'll throw in a few fast rounds as well that you can't get complacent. And again, this is why we give Boaster's calling so much credit. Like, he just seems to have the right gauge on what the opponents are doing in the majority of the round. Now they're even going to switch things up. And, well, Zeke, he goes, oh, you've got an orbital strike. I'll try throwing one back to at least give us a chance. But realistically, they're taking so much damage in these circumstances that even though the 4 defense has rotated, they're now going to get ulted again.
Cider and Muri both 1 away from their ultimates. They are so close to having game changers in their hands, and it's going to be the flash out that makes the attempt to follow through. And Cider, he has absolutely destroyed them right through the TP, sneaking behind enemy lines and putting 8-4 on the board. Wave, they needed that. That is a lifeline and a chance if they win the pistol to get back into this.
He's one of the boys. He's one of the boys. He's gone with him. No one expecting that many people. That was unbelievable. This is a man who a few rounds ago we were talking about having no kills.
Yeah.
He's now second on his team with 1 round.
That's just had a real elevator vibe. Hold the door. Gets in there and destroys them. My God. And the flash helped because the player, when they went through, I can't remember exactly who it was, but the player who was looking back was blind. Because obviously they were looking back just before they went through the TP. So Murray completely blinded that guy who would have probably killed Cider, allowing Cider to get a double and then a triple afterwards, putting him on 4 for the round. That was glorious. And if they win this pistol, they're back in it, Tom. But Wave, they're already off to a bit of a rocky start with Daddy Doma taking down 1, but they've answered back. They've got the site and they've got the plant. Man advantage for Wave.
And there's no flank either. They're all coming in from similar directions. The Aftershock might help them a little bit with clearing some of these angles. Boaster, though, not winning the duel. Carcass, again, going strong with the pistol. And, well, Durka, he is going to help, get some help, I should say. The Aftershock clearing the angle at least. Magnum down to 5 HP. It leaves Durka to do the heavy lifting, but that's what he does best. Set him up, put him in position, and watch him roll through these rounds. This time, though, Carcass is there to shut him out. It's going to be left all on to Magnum. And as said, he was far too low.
A round that was much needed here, Tom. Putting 5 on the board for Wave. I feel like this is the start of something. The start of the comeback, perhaps. And FNATIC. I'd be interested to see. I presume they'll take an eco here. I guess so. Look at that money. It's terrible. Most teams will take an eco when they lose the second. But sometimes if you just feel like you're the better team, just go for it. You throw yourself headfirst at them. But in this situation, I think it's the wise choice to just play with those classics.
They've got enough of an advantage anyway. Unless they're going to lose to the bonus, it might not matter. Again, we're seeing both teams very aggressive. Now, in these sort of rounds, there's little to no risk. And actually, Magnum is already going to be able to pick off 1. The thing is, though, they do check for Boaster. And that was the important kill. If he gets 1 here, you feel like it might all be over. Now, I feel like the teleporter push from Durka is almost just to distract. Like, okay, yep, keep focusing on me. I've made a nice amount of noise. Now my teammates are going to push in from long. It means that they get a couple of kills, which in these sort of rounds, that's what you're hoping for. It's not a miracle play. It's not a victory, but you're going to force a few rebuys, or Wave are going to have to play this one with pistols, at least on the players that died.
Just a couple of unchecked angles, really. Boaster, I felt the play. I really did. He was in that corner. They saw his foot, or they saw him as he went through. Either that or it was the spidey senses, but whatever it was, they avoided a calamity. At 8-6, this is FNATIC's full buy up against Waves. Well, I mean, we don't really call it a bonus at this stage, do we? They've got enough rifles in it that it's close enough to a full buy for themselves. That shock dart's nice. Oh, a little bit too shallow.
Smoke's down.
It is looking like they're almost all in on the A site. We're going to see the Molotov alongside a snakebite to try and clear the back. The problem is they haven't dealt with Durkee. He's going through. He's just pushing all the way in. Man is mad. But you know what? His teammates have cleaned things up anyway. It might have been what looked like a bit of a distraction play, as now, FNATIC, they won the round that was expected of them. But the question is, how much are Wave going to invest into this one? They should, in theory, have a pretty solid buy.
9-6. As you said, a solid buy, and it is. You know, it's almost like instead of having a bonus round with weaker weapons and then a super strong buy, they've got two medium buys. They've got rifles, they've got a lot of utility because they didn't need to use it in the previous, and then like a Spectre, a Guardian, and the Guardian doesn't get the reward it needed. At least the trade is there, and Breach is down right off the bat. Magnum's flashes have been something to be feared. And so it's nice to see that they're not going to be in this round, at least for Wave it is. They'll be quite happy.
Toxins going up.
It's not the worst trade in the world either. Mostly considering the weaponry and the utility that you lose off of Jet. It doesn't make that much of a difference to the executes. It's more just his ability to entry that is probably going to be the heavier of the losses. Now for FNATIC, there's someone just split 2 for 2. They don't necessarily have a clue as to where these remaining players are going. Of course, with stars down on the deck, they can easily slow any of the pushes. A gravity well to pull them back if they do go pushing, but that takes information. And as of right now, they don't have much of it.
The snakebite, that might actually buy them quite a lot of room because some of these guys can't actually run through, but Cider has still made it onto the site with the Rolling Thunder. Looks like he's just going to cut off any possibility of re-aggression in through lamps, but Mystic has gone elsewhere. Wise to Muri's tricks. Boaster takes down Zeke, and with this, FNATIC are ahead. The TP will come through. Luckily, nobody's sneaking in with them, but Cider has managed to get behind enemy lines in another way. His steps, though, giving away the fact that he's still here. He will he won't TP because he actually gets caught on the way through, leaving Nico all alone with a Guardian in hand and not much hope. Double digits now reached for FNATIC, and Wave are looking a little bit shaky here on the attack. The one good thing that we can look to is that ult economy is about to come online for them, although the same can be said for FNATIC.
Yeah, I think this next round has to be a play for an orb. Like, get Carcass that Blade Storm, have something to play behind in this round. He's definitely had his moments, although, as said, like, I don't think you can expect the same level from him in this second half, because he's not just going to be taking these aggressive peaks with that operator, which was what was doing so much. I also have to again give credit to Doma there, because we sort of see in that post plant, or it wasn't even a post plant, as they try and get the spike down, he has a Molotov that bounces over the top, slows everything down, and that then gives Boast the time to get into position and takes down the second player. All of it was about wasting as much time as they could, and that's exactly what they did.
Oh my, what has just happened? I've just gotten destroyed. Little spray down. Doma sprays one guy, gets 2 kills. Hey, he's happy enough about that one. You'll take it when they're coming your way, especially in such a close range angle. And you talked about, oh yeah, just go in and fight for that orb, maybe inside a bath. Well, they fought. They did fight, but it didn't go according to plan. They've only ended up with 1 kill out of this. FNATIC's economy just gets bolstered even further, meaning it's going to be rifles for a long time. Wave are going to have to be pretty flawless on this attack if they want to get away back in. And remember, this is FNATIC's map. This is the map that we've long known FNATIC to be the kings of. They lost it to Sentinels in overtime. They lost it to G2 in a tight game. A G2 that looks better than ever before. And with the exception of those two, they dominate.
What is this? Is this how they got him up there last time?
Attempted boost. Here we go.
It actually works. Okay. You know what? Fair play. It definitely seems like maybe Brimstone is a little bit heavy for that. Like, I feel like Mystic is going to have a few back problems, but hey, it got him up there in the end. That's all that counts.
Time to hunt.
Deep shock dart again. Not going to connect, so that wolf continues forward and finds, well, not really a lot of information. Magnum ready to answer back with an aftershock and peek right after his disappears. That's so good. That is so good. The reaction, the confidence that his teammate had him covered. Now they're even contemplating the rolling thunder, and it looks like inside of Hookah is where that one's going to go down, leaving Cider none the wiser, not able to do anything. An aftershock in play pushes Nico completely out as the rest of his team falls to smithereens. That is a clean round from FNATIC. Every single attempt by Wave had the perfect response. Even, I don't know if you noticed, but when that aftershock went down, there was also a gravity well. Like, they had everything planned for. Wave just ran into a bundle of utility and barely even got to take an aim duel.
Yeah, that was beautiful. I think as well, like we're seeing pretty much every single member of FNATIC have a pretty damn strong game. Boaster as well has been performing, having so many like backstabs and sneaky positions on site, teaming well, as you mentioned, with all the other players. I like, there's definite reasoning behind wanting to bring in this Astra. As it was said in the interview with Mini, like if every team's trying to counter the current comp that they're running, the comp that's worked for so long, you almost are forced to change it. Otherwise, eventually someone's going to crack the code. Now, just because it didn't work versus G2 in a series where Mixwell drops over 30 kills and plays one of the best series we've ever seen him play, does it mean the comp is trash? Absolutely not. So they've run it again. They've had faith in their practices, their scrims, and it looks damn good. And although there were moments where Wave were able to compete with a few cheeky plays of their own, some individual brilliance throughout this map, FNATIC have been the better team.
Most definitely. Yeah, I don't think anybody can argue the contrary. And when you look at where Wave are at right now, it's a sad sight, really, because we know that this team is very, very capable. And as I said, it feels like every single time that they come into VCT, they end up against FNATIC. They end up against another top-tier team. And they managed to beat them the last time. That's the worst part. And Mystic taken down off the bat. This could be the comeback. 6 rounds in a row. They need to double their score. And they can't lose one in the meantime. But the opening duel, it bodes well. They have an orbital strike. They have a Viper's Pit. Definitely a dangerous round.
Arcus has at least found an opener, but you can't expect FNATIC just to sit still. They're already looking for plays, making aggressive pushes to try and garner information. Interestingly, you've got Zik sat all the way at the back towards spawn. The timing could actually go against him, but he spotted Boaster at least. And I wonder if they're going to try and make a play off the back of this. Spotting him so far down, you would almost make the read, normally at least, that there's only going to be one player there. For them instead, they're actually going to continue this push into A.
Going straight on in. Magnum caught right away. The flash a little bit late. The orbital strike clears out lamps. This is a lot of information to play with for Wave. Are they aware of the flank that's coming in? Well, it's going to take a while longer, so I guess they're going to be looking back by then, and indeed they are. 2 players remaining for FNATIC, and this is looking like, at least for now, the round is going to go their way. Nico very close to getting himself the rolling thunder. Might want to go out for a couple of fights. That defuse was brave, but it's not going to happen. In fact, Nico even getting the kill to close it out, meaning Rolling Thunder is online at the very beginning of the next round.
Yeah, and a flawless victory for Wave. The only thing is, it still feels like eventually FNATIC are going to get this over the line. And I think the main thing I want to talk about with Wave is they just need to get off to some better starts. Like, think about in both the last 2 maps at least, just slip-ups near the beginning that end up seemingly putting them far enough behind that FNATIC just have this buffer to play with. So, yeah, a little bit worried about the way things have gone, but there are definite positives here for Wave. Now, they are going to be having a strong purchase into this round, but bear in mind, Doma's got his orbital strike again.
It always seems to be online, at least in this map. Constant fight for ult orbs has always been a feature of the FNATIC gameplay. Of course, he's dominating in a lot of duels, and there we go. Another trade comes back. But that's Mystic gone, and a huge loss. That one-way smoke that you have constantly at the start of the round on mid no longer exists. That's out of the game, and so at this point, they have to rotate in. Well, indeed. They have to rotate in an extra player, in fact, 2 towards that A side, leaving Durka to play hyper-aggressive on B. No, he doesn't mind so much if they go through hookah because he'll have a very early flank that shouldn't be read on. Although it does look like Wave, again, running right into that stack.
It seems like their executions on the comfortable pick for them. The worry again, though, orbital strike ready. They do have the rolling thunder themselves. Now, the last couple of times we've seen them pop this almost straight into the Lamp's position. This time, though, they've cleared out Heaven. They found Doma early, so never mind. That ultimate isn't going to play a part, but they haven't cleared the Lamps. Never mind. Zik comes through as the last man to find that player and leaves it onto this clutch master again. The first man falls in the 1 versus 2. The second likely to go as well. Durka looking to end it all, but Zik will hold on. Wave will go a little bit longer.
By a hair's width, they just about make it 12-8. I mean, for a 1v3, yes, 2 of those players were one hit. They were super, super low, so it's not as clear cut as it could have been otherwise, but still, that was a bit scary. A lot of 1v1 fights offered up and cashed in on. And FNATIC, as we mentioned, they have got a pretty damn good economy. They're up buying yet again. It just doesn't seem to get easier for Wave. And indeed, if FNATIC lose this one, Tom, they'll be buying again. There's just no end to it. And the lack of an operator, for the most part, will help out significantly in that fight. Doma taken down, and that means this ult orb is free for Muri, and with the kill and the orb, he has Seekers online. They are just about edging this ult economy in their favor every single time.
This is going to give away so much information, but they actually deny with the spray through, and of course the combination of the snake bite. We know the vulnerability makes this Phantom as deadly as any gun you can find. Already putting them into a 4 versus 4, but the push isn't stopping. They are still going into A.
Welcome to my world.
Oh, the Viper's Pit activated. Boaster almost had a swing on sight, but has to fall back. Hunter's Fury ends up connecting, and Cider falls. It's all down to Zeke. He has the spike, and he's running to B, a 1v4, and Durka's already here, creeping his way into Elbow. Oh, man, because you know Zeke's going to peek spawn, but does he check this? Does he ever check Elbow?
What?
Of course he doesn't. Putting 13 on the board for FNATIC and securing them the next round of the lower bracket. That is a shame, a real shame, Tom, for Wave, because they've gone out yet again, and they came so close. That means now that FNATIC are through to the main event of Challengers, and Wave falls short by just 1 game.
I love the cam of Durka. It looks like he's just got out of bed. He's like, oh yeah, right, lads, I'm off for a nap. That's me done for today. But yeah, an enjoyable series for sure. You do have to feel a little bit bad for Wave, the fact that it is just going to be them